The Marcia Weekes Show. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. From Barbados to Africa, voices unite. Educate minds, elevate sight. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. From Barbados to Africa, voices unite. Educate minds, elevate sight. It's the Marcia Weekes Show. Talk truth, build roots, stories unfold. Motivate change, mobilize is the mode, that's the MR code. Hey! We growing, we know it.
And a great good evening to every single one of you joining us here tonight at the Marcia Weekes Show. What a joy it is for us to have you here again with us. We have been with you Sunday night, Monday night, and Wednesday night, and now again on Friday night. And today, believe it or not, my wife had to say to me today, is today already the 10th of the month? And I said to her, yes, it's the 10th of July. We have just begun the month, and before you know it, we are going through to the end of the month, believe it or not. And that's amazing how quickly time is flying. But even before I get into anything, as I always do on Friday nights, I want to share with you the national pledge of our country. We're very proud of our nation. I believe our motto is pride in industry. And of course, we are Barbadians. We are committed to our country. We believe in the sovereignty and the independence and the Republican position of our country. And so we pledge allegiance to our nation through the National Pledge of Barbados. So share it together with me this evening. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living, to do credit to my nation wherever I go. Thank you so very much for committing yourself to your country. I am so happy to be a host on this show, not just tonight, but whenever I'm asked. But I am equally happy to say to you tonight that I thank God for all of you who are members of the loyal opposition and the members of the opposition party as well, because Barbados is a democracy. That means that we have general elections and there are two parties in this country. While one may currently hold all of the seats in parliament, it doesn't mean that there is no opposition. There is very much an opposition in our country, and it is created, formed by, and comprises of the people of this nation. And so we are grateful to have every single one of you joining us this evening. As is always our custom, we try to identify some of you that have been waiting. Let me see, since about, I think there were some on from about 4 something. Just let me double check that. See, 5:04, waiting for us since 5:04. Judy Gills, good evening. And welcome to the show this evening. A pleasure to have you with us. Lucinda Aline, really great to have you with us again this evening. Just let me try and get this mouse working properly. Sharon, great to have you with us this evening as well. Good night and thank you. We're going to be in for a tremendous show, as always is the case here on the Marcia Weekes Show. Good evening to that's Sharon P8E. Finally got a Bajan peer. Really? Oh my goodness. And I can't even say I've got mine yet. My tree hasn't done anything. And listen, between the monkeys, the bats, and the birds, we have been fighting just to get a mango. All right. So I tell you, it isn't easy. If you have managed to get that pear, Sharon, God bless you. God bless you. You're one great person to have been able to find one. I can't get it just yet. Andrea Critchlow, good evening to you. Pleasure to have you with us this evening. Marcia Miller, really great to have you back with us again tonight. I'm looking for a couple of people. Taroni, there you are. Taroni, believe it or not, I was looking for you. Good night to you, and a pleasure having you with us again this evening. Matthew Brown, good night to you as well. And Bajan Boy, great to have you, Bajan Boy. I'm a big girl. Where would we be without this big girl? Good evening to I'm a big girl. Let me get this mouse operating. You know, this is one of the only mice that I really have a liking for. Laurie Bob, God bless you. And Joyanne Faith, great to have you with us again this evening. Let me run down a couple of Mavis, there you are. Mavis Lashley, good evening. And thank you again. Yes, like and share. And we really appreciate you, helping us where that is concerned. Thank you so very much, Mavis, for reminding us of that. Jacqueline Aline, God bless you. Great to have you with us on the show tonight. We're looking forward to a good evening. Annette Brewster, God bless you. Great to have you again tonight as well. Some of you have been inquiring concerning my wife. She's doing, as I said before, a lot better. She's improving, and we are believing the Lord to help us in every way, shape, and form in getting her the best medical attention we possibly can have, so that I don't want to lose her, okay? I really don't. She's a critical asset to my life, to be honest with you. And I don't say this, I say this in front of her face, I say this behind her back. I honestly am not sure what I would do without her. And I thank God. It's not that she's my God or replaces Jesus Christ. We all understand they all have their place. And the word of God tells me that he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtains favor of the Lord. So I'm really blessed to have her as my partner in life, and officially and legally so. Calendar 2463, good night to you as well. Good to have you on the show with us. Yes. Blessings to all of you as well. God bless you. Real joy to have all of you joining us this evening. Now, tonight, we're going to have Quite a bit. I don't know if we have the time. I wanted Dave to play a song for me. I don't know if we'll have the time for that, but anyhow, we'll come to that if it's possible in just a few minutes. All right, we'll come back to that. But there you go. I saw him just had the flyer up, Dave. That's for Elevate Strong Families. Now, I am not a big football fan, but I get it. The whole world seems to be, locked in to the FIFA World Cup. And next Sunday, that is Sunday, July the 19th, there will be the hosting of the FIFA FIFA World Cup finals. With that, not just the finals, but with that, more than football, building families. And this is going to be at SIFA House, Praise Academy, SIFA House, Upper Cullimer Rock, St. Michael. And it will be commencing at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. There's going to be lunch. There's going to be inspirational moments. There's going to be, just let me pull it up here for myself. There's going to be testimony, live finals, highlights, family fun, and there's going to be all on one giant 12-foot by 6-foot, 16:9 LED screen, big, bright, and live. So it's a free event, food, fun, and fellowship with tremendous lasting memories. And I want to encourage you to make sure, thank you, to make sure that you get there next Sunday. That's July the 19th. Now, let me just give you the directions to SIFA House. That's SIFA, not FIFA. It's not too far off, is it? SIFA House, SIFA House. If you're coming up from Bridgetown, it is the entrance on your right immediately before Guardian Life, okay? Immediately before Guardian Life. If you're coming up from Bridgetown, coming up Cullimer Rock. If you're coming down Cullimer Rock from up Wildy, it is the first entrance after Guardian Life. So first entrance before if you're coming up from the city, first entrance after on your left if you're coming down from Wildy. And we'll be looking forward to having you there with us. Now, also upcoming will be the Walk Holy Kadooment Band. And we want you to, this is also going to be at SIFA House. And that is also going to be on Sunday the 19th. My goodness, it's going to be a busy, busy day at Praise Academy. I tell you, you're not going to want to miss it. You are not going to want to miss it. However, now, this Walk Holy, pure soca and social commentary does have a charge attached to it. It's a $20 charge. That's really not a lot, again. And you get to watch the live FIFA final from 3 p.m., so you can come on 3 p.m. Refreshments will be on sale. I guess they'll be able to determine who will be there and staying on for the soca and social commentary. And they'll be featuring Kid Sight. They'll be featuring the announcer, Blood, Juliana, Richard Antonio, the Apache, Sammy Jane, James Leacock, wow, and many, many more. So you're not going to want to miss this Sunday, July the 19th, not the Sunday coming, the following Sunday, not Sunday coming, July the 12th, the following Sunday, July the 19th. You are not going to want to miss being at Praise Academy. Make sure you get the time. Reserve your space, 236-7000. Make sure you call and reserve your space there at Praise Academy. Now, also, we have a tremendous outreach program that is also, we're also supporting, and that is the Elevate program. And they do need volunteers. This is the Elevate Community Education Program with the entitlement Stamp Out Illiteracy. Stamp Out Illiteracy. And where every child can learn with your help, and they will certainly be able to grasp a tremendous development in their lives. Just 1 hour can change a child's life, and this is 1 hour every week. or 1 hour every 2 weeks, or 1 hour every month. You can choose your time that you would like to commit to, and this will help the children in reading. It will help the children with the English language skills, and also with mathematics and sports. And the I'm just getting some more information here. Okay. This is also 2,367,000 every Tuesday and Thursday, 4:30 to 6:30, and then 9 to 11 on Saturdays. So be a part of the solution. And I believe that's a video, Dave, that you're going to be running. If that's a part of it, please go right ahead and run that video. I don't know if it has any song to it, but there you can see the children being a part of that literacy program. Let me make sure it's not my headset. No, that's good. Just want to make sure I'm getting everything good. Is there any volume on that, Dave? I just want to make sure my headset is working correctly. No sound. Okay, thank you, sir. God bless you. You know, look, come on, let's hear it for Dave. Let's hear it for Dave. Dave does a tremendous job every single night that we're on, and we really appreciate his contribution tremendously. I don't know what we would do without him. And this is for the children, and we really want to be able to support this initiative, a community outreach, photos and videos, volunteer opportunities. There's a request for children's books, computers, financial support, literacy volunteers, wherever you can assist. If you're a retired teacher, whatever you are able to contribute. Somebody's saying, tuning into it, it's going to be a great game on the 19th. Well, I don't know who's going to be in the finals, but whoever it is, I am so sorry. Okay, listen, I apologize, Monica Ince. I am going to recognize you. Thank you. I will not make that mistake twice. Okay, bless you, my dear. God bless you. God bless you. I am so sorry. Forgive me. All right, forgive me. Amen. Praise God. I love these people, you know. I really love these people. Honestly, they're such a wonderful family. We really appreciate you all. And thank you so very much for your help for this Elevate program. Now, there's also this Black Belly Sheep song challenge that I'm hearing about. And this is calling all singers, writers, and creatives to create your own Black Belly Sheep song. Now, I haven't got to watch all the previous shows, but I know that Marcia has been engaging the matter of the Black Belly Sheep. I don't know if they're ours anymore, really. I don't know. Anyhow, and okay, thank you, Mavis. Cecilia, too. Cecilia, good night. Good night to you, too. And okay, thank you. Thank you. Oh, I just love you guys. Listen, if I miss your name, forgive me. It's an opportunity to exercise forgiveness. Oh, I really love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so very much. But listen, this Black Belly Sheep song challenge. Okay, but listen, that thing looks so funny on the screen there, Dave. You want to bring it up a little bigger, Dave? Let's fill the screen up with that. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Write it, sing it, rap it. Make us laugh. One sheep, two countries, one song. So we are open. Original songs are welcome. Even AI assisted songs are welcome. And you can WhatsApp your song to 2367000. 2367000. I don't know if I'm a songwriter, but this is Song and Interesting. No cash, no contracts, just Caribbean bragging rights and the chance to become the voice of the Black Belly Sheep. I tell you. I tell you, winner, what's that? Winner coroner featured across live interviews, bragging rights. I tell you, man, opportunity to represent the black belly sheep. I tell you, oh, praise God. God bless you all, man. I tell you, look, write your song, send it in 236. Even got me talking like a black belly sheep. I love it. Yeah. Pressure, sheep in glasses. No, man, them is shades, Judy. Them is shades, man. That's a hard seed sheep there, I tell you. And he got on a chain too. Yes, Mavis, you saw that? Chain around the neck, man. I tell you, that's a hard seed sheep there. I tell you, my goodness, you all got me crying. I tell you, man. Oh, I tell you, bless God. Bless God, man. Great, 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 wonderful. I tell you, I'm a big girl. I am killing myself. Look, I gotta get serious. I got a show to do tonight, a show to do tonight. You guys give me a break, man. I gotta settle down and watch my time. My time is going by, and I ain't even getting to any serious matters of the show just yet. So Dave, you gotta take that black belly sheep off your screen, man. The black belly sheep distracted us too much. I tell you, praise God. Well, there you have it, folks. So you got a few things coming up on July the 19th. You got a lot happening. FIFA Cup finals at SIFA House Praise Academy, Calamarock, at the 19th of July. That's not this Sunday, the following Sunday. Also, soca evening with some top artists. Don't miss it. All right? Just don't miss it. Laurie, oh dear me, gracious me. Taroni tell me I'm going to sleep and dream about sheep. Well, Taroni to tell me that when you can't get to sleep, you should count sheep. But what I do is I talk to the shepherd instead, okay? And then Laurie Bob tell me, what was this one, Laurie? You tell me the sheep have a big chain around his neck. I hope he don't get robbed. I don't know if that still happens down in Guyana. I don't think that happens in Guyana since the Fung oil, Laurie. I think that stopped now. I think that stopped. But look, I gotta get on. with the show for. Give me a break. Praise God. Don't mind me sticking and all of that. All right. Sometimes when you stick, you get an opportunity to look at my handsome face and enjoy even more. Praise God. I tell you. Well, listen, I do want to, it's good to have some fun. Huh? Look, the good book says that laughter is good medicine. That's what it says. Laughter is good medicine. So if you've been laughing with me, praise God. It's one of those medications that has no adverse side effects. It only has good side effects. All right, praise God. So listen, let's try and get into the show tonight. We're gonna be touching a few areas. I'm going to, in a few minutes, take a look at this matter of the Prime Minister calling on the private sector to cut their profits and so on. And we're going to be looking at some crop over highlights. And then we're going together with Maxine McLean. God bless her. And she's expecting her to be on tonight with me. We're going to be taking a look at the Barbados Economic Watch. And then, of course, I'm going to be joined by the my esteemed colleague, Apostle Lynroy Scantlebury. He'll be joining me, and we're going to be also taking a look at the high cost of living in Barbados, also economically focused, and hopefully Maxine will be able to stay on with us as we discuss these very critical matters to do with the cost of living in Barbados. Now, listen, I want to start by carrying you back, okay, to 2010. If I can take you back to 2010, and pardon me if I look at my notes, because I've done some research on this and I don't want to get it wrong. So I'm going to be referring to my notes a lot, okay? But in 2010, the current Prime Minister was most prominently opposed to an increase in VAT when she was leader of the opposition. I'm going somewhere with this. In the 2010 budget, the then Democratic Labour Party government, led by Prime Minister David Thompson, with the Finance Minister Christopher St. Clair, who is now a government minister in this Barbados Labour Party government. All right. The increase the standard value added tax from 15% to 17.5%. The opposition Barbados Labour Party, led by the current Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley, strongly criticized the measure, arguing that it would increase the cost of living for Barbadians. She also continued to criticize the government's decision in latter years. And for example, in 2017, she reminded Parliament that the VAT had been raised to 17.5% in 2010, mind you, as a temporary measure, but it was sustained, and it became a part of her criticism of the then Democratic Labour Party government tax policies. So that was in 2010 and then in 2017. However, during the election campaign of 2018, the Barbados Labour Party, led by Mia Motley, the current Prime Minister, promised, listen to my words, promised to reduce the standard value added tax from 17.5% back to 15%. I'm going somewhere with this tonight. The pledge appears in the party's 2018 manifesto alongside commitments to abolish the National Social Responsibility Levy, or the NSRL levy, and make other tax changes. However, after winning the election in May of 2018, the government did not reduce the standard value added tax rate. Listen carefully. After having criticized it, after having promised to return it to its original rate, and having put that in as a manifesto promise, I am told that during the last election, the manifesto was a covenant with the people. Now, we went through this matter of covenant because covenant can only be made by someone way in a level of authority and power than you. And last I checked, there ain't no Barbadian sitting in that level. Not no prime minister, not no president, none of them. None of us. We are all Barbadians. And while we respect the office, you don't sit in no higher authority or power because we are your employers. And you need to hear this resonating in your ear. However, after winning the election in May of 2018, the government did not reduce the standard value added tax rate as promised. Instead, the 17.5% standard VAT rate remained in place. The government introduced other tax and fiscal measures, including extending VAT to some online purchases, which is still in place at 2.5%, I think, and making changes to VAT exemptions and zero-rated items as part of its broader fiscal adjustment program. The government argued that Barbados' listen carefully to the wording, The government argued that Barbados' severe fiscal and debt crisis and the economic reform program agreed, that is the BERT programs and all these fancy names, okay, agreed with the International Monetary Fund, made it impractical to reduce the VAT rate immediately, which means if you're not going to reduce it immediately, then you're going to be considering reducing it later on. All right. However, and I believe, I don't know if this is the specific area, but maybe you can make it a little larger, Dave. But specifically under the heading, there it is. Just take it over to the, take it over and make it larger so the people can see it. And this is the manifesto. Okay, I am telling you what is in their manifesto. It said, and I quote, A country cannot be taxed into recovery. This is what, you see it in red? A country cannot be taxed into recovery. Barbadians are overtaxed. The tax burden will be eased. And they promise to reduce. Look at highlighted there. You better make that a little bigger because these people do not believe me. Okay? It's there. They've got to make it bigger and he can show you it is there in the thing. Okay? It is there. Look at it. Return VAT to 15% within 18 months. We are now 8 years on, and VAT is still 17.5%. And the Prime Minister has the audacity to tell the private sector by calling the names of a company called Neil and Massey, who is one of the largest employers of people across the Caribbean, not just in Barbados, that they got to reduce their profit because they made a $49 million profit and no company has a right making a $49 million profit while the people suffering. Hold on. It then listed a series of commitments, including abolishing, which is there, the NSRL. Listen, abolishing road tax. Let me stick a pin. The government, by applying a tax at the pump, has raised millions of dollars, tons more than if you and I were asked to pay our road tax. I can't remember. I think it was Kimar that talked about, I think he talked about something like nearly $1 billion a year, $80 million, and it was contested by can't remember his name now, it ain't important. Contested by one of the supporters of the Barbados Labour Party, $80 million a year, nearly $1 billion a month, nearly $1 billion a year. The abolishing road tax, but the haul in a ton more money. Okay? Repeal the oppressive requirement for tax clearance certificates, return VAT to 15% within 18 months. Repeal the municipal solid waste tax imposed in 2014, but we still paying. Look, y'all making sport. I can't even put my hand on my water bill. We paying a sewage tax. We are paying a sewage tax on every water bill. Okay, except for some of the elderly people, retired pensioners and whatnot, who have to write in and apply for permission. Okay. So that was a clear election commitment. After the Barbados Labour Party formed the government in May of 2018, however, the standard VAT remained at 17.5%, where it still is to this day, with the government later explaining that the country's fiscal crisis and economic reform program required it to maintain the higher rate rather than reduce it. And then you got the audacity to come to Neil and Massey and tell them some foolishness about reducing their profit margins. Let me say this to you now, because I don't know if the Prime Minister has ever gone into a supermarket. I used to work with a company called Alamak Trading Company Limited. Okay? And I used to sell to that company, and I used to have to go in and pack the shelves with Pride of Jamaica. I don't know if you all remember this. Pride of Jamaica orange juice, you remember that? Pride of Jamaica grapefruit juice. You all remember the Ortonique oranges and the sweet cups and the sweet plates and all these foam containers that you now see things being packed in. Alamak Trading was the company that really introduced them to Barbados and put them on the map in Barbados. I helped do that. I used to work with them as a sales executive. And in the supermarkets, and I'm telling you, I don't know that it has changed. I had promised to check and inquire with some of the management and financial people in the supermarket, but I don't think it has changed. Food is marked up 33%. 33%. Automobiles are marked up 35 and 45%, and the government takes in some instances, 210% in duty on some motor vehicles. Of course, not the electric ones, because I understand they're duty-free. I could be wrong with that, But I understand they're duty-free. But the regular vehicles used to be, and you see this money they're pulling in since 2018 to now. It's only now we start bringing in electric cars that things are duty-free, that cars are all electric cars are duty-free. I'm not sure of the hybrids. I have to check back with some of my colleagues to see what is the state of those matters. But I know food used to be 33%. I don't know that it has changed. Okay? And let me say this. Governments overseas, and this is a fact, do your research. I did mine. Governments overseas subsidize their farmers. That is why some of the produce coming in from overseas is cheaper than the produce produced by our farmers, because our farmers simply can't compete. Why? Because the inputs are so expensive. If the Prime Minister wants the private sector, Neil and Massey, she named Neil and Massey. I watched a video clip on Facebook this afternoon. She named Neil and Massey. If she wants Neil and Massey to reduce their profit margin, then she should set the example by reducing the VAT in this country from 17.5% back to 15%, which she promised to do at some point in time, while not immediately. 8 years has now transpired, and you have not kept that promise. And that singular promise is what has the cost of living in Barbados as high as it is, not Neil and Massey's markup alone. And I'm not going to be critical of the merchants, although I do know that some of them are obtaining cheaper products, and those prices are not necessarily being passed on to the consumers. So don't think I'm siding fully with the merchants and not to some degree expressing concern with the cost of food. I know you know. This is where people don't understand. Some of us in these fields think that because I'm a reverend and a pastor and whatever, that we are stupid when it comes to business. I was in business. I am the person who put BMW on the map in Barbados. I am the sales executive along with Johnny Tudor, who almost sunk Mercedes-Benz in this country. When we were selling 100 and something cars a year, Mercedes was selling 20 something or 30 cars of the equivalent value. Okay, so I have been in the business market. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not Johnny come lately when it comes to this stuff. And I am saying to the Prime Minister, if you have a shred of morality within you, you should set the example to the merchants and put the VAT back at 17.5% across the board. Back to 15%, I apologize, across the board. And yes, you should give VAT exemptions. You hear people talk about non-communicable disease. You hear people talking about obesity. You know why people are obese? Because they just jolly well can't afford to buy healthy foods in the country. They can't afford carrots. Have you looked lately at the price of blueberries, black currants? Have you looked recently at the price of watermelon on the shelf? Have you looked at the price of kiwi? Have you looked at the price of pears and peaches? All of these are things that are good for us. Have you looked at the price of cabbage? I am asking you all, as the loyal opposition, have you looked at the price of these things? And I'm saying to the Prime Minister, if you want to help with the cost of living, not just zero rate those things, bring them in duty-free. Because we're dealing with obesity, we're dealing with non-communicable diseases. And here's the thing. You will find that when people have money in their pocket, they spend and they buy. This is an economic fact. Or I'm not an economist, but I have asked questions. I have spent 20 years almost traveling between here and the Cayman Islands after the 2004 hurricane in Grand Cayman. And man, I got so caught up in this thing, I don't even think I'm going to get to my other topic, but let me stay on this one. Right? I wanted to touch on this matter, the Trident ID, and show how it's going to be tying in. Go and take a look at the UK and see how the UK is moving to control their people by a digital ID. But I'm not going to get into that, right? I have been traveling between Grand Cayman and here for the last 20 years. Grand Cayman has no income tax. And it is still a cheaper country than this island that we live on. I am telling you, and I challenge anybody to oppose me on that. Because I can buy a package of soda biscuits in Grand Cayman for about 60 to 65 cents Cayman, which is about maybe 90 cents US. That's $1.80. And I'm buying it off the shelf here in Barbados, even at Popular, for over $2. Okay, so yeah, they can help reduce the prices. Yes, the merchants are shopping in Brazil. As a matter of fact, I picked up a carton of juice today, and I thought to myself, well, this juice tastes fairly nice. Let me see where it was made. It was made in Cyprus. Cyprus. Selling for $4 and, $4.99 at Massey stores. The same Massey, when Pine Hill Dairy juices are selling nearly up in $7 and $8 for the same size carton. Now, you figure that out, because I'm saying those farmers are subsidized in those countries. They can produce things a lot cheaper and ship them and whatnot. We can't compete. So if the Prime Minister and the Minister of Agriculture, and I ain't got time to get into that, want to do anything, start by setting the example, ma'am. Don't stand up and pontificate as you are really good at doing. You pontificate in any regional or international forum, but when it comes to dealing with matters here in Barbados, ma'am, you are, as the good book says, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. The cost of living in this country is exceptionally high because the taxation is high. The tax at the pump is high. The money you're pulling in at the pump should be going back into the people's pockets. You're borrowing. We are in more debt now than we have been ever in the history of this country. And the tourism industry is not producing. Don't mind the figures. They had to reset the figures, some 27,000. And I can tell you for a fact, I'm not going to tell you where I discovered this, but I spoke to a specific hotelier in this country. And they tell me, don't pay attention to the government figures. They are not realistic. They do not reflect the actual presence of people in the hotels in this country. They are the projections that are given. That's what I have been told. I can't swear to that. That's what I was told. I'm telling you. Okay? So all these fancy figures the government coming out with for the tourism sector are projected, not real people in the hotel. And they're not spending. They're not spending the money because this place is expensive. I heard a couple of them the other day. I was somewhere picking up some food, and I heard them speaking about the cost of these things. So, ma'am, with all due respect, as the Prime Minister and to your Minister of Finance, who is one of the most disingenuous individuals we have ever encountered in that area of ministry, who had the audacity to attempt to insult professors who trained him in a most disingenuous manner, like many of your ministers who get an attitude because they're asked questions and you have to give explanations and you have to give an account. You are an inept government. You are a government that does not know that it has to give an account to the people of this country. I wanted to say this, and I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to give Dave the chance to move on to the next area. Madam Prime Minister, this country is not your personal stomping ground, and our finances are not your personal bank for you to spend how you feel like. You are employed by me. You are employed by the loyal opposition. You are employed by the citizens of this country, along with your ministers, and you have to give an account to us. And don't talk to me about no committee that you setting up on no contractual basis or anything of that sort to be able to monitor how government spends money. There's an Auditor General. Let him do his job and let him be honest to come out, get out of his face, stay out of the matter, and do the business for this country in an honest manner. Excuse me. Ministers that think they know everything. I read something, Thomas Swalwell talked about how people who have a degree and are educated think they know everything, but in truth and in fact, they know nothing. I'm not against degrees and he's not against degrees, but when you don't know about a subject, it's best to sit down and talk with people who do and get advice and input. And the people of this country have a right to ask questions. They have a right to hold your feet to the fire. You have no opposition in Parliament, and the lackeys you carried in there with you don't have the intestinal fortitude to push back at you and tell you the things that you need to hear. They don't have the guts to do it. And you've made it now impossible for them to cross the floor, so that if they cross the floor, they're going to go back to the electorate. So you are trying to ensure that this country remains a one-party state in a democratic sense, in a republic that is by the people, for the people, of the people. That's what you have done, ma'am. And these people are not going to let you get away with anything. We are going to hold your feet to the fire. And when you stand up and give all your fancy, pretty talks, that don't mean diddly squat, because the people in this country know what we are going through. So don't get up and tell the private sector to cut their profits unless you are prepared to cut yours. Unless you are prepared to tell us how you intend to pay the debt back, how you intend to raise money for this country. Who's going to pay for it when you are dead and you leave office and the BLP is no more in office? Who's going to pay the bill for this country? Or you don't care? But then again, your slogan was Mia cares. That's your slogan. I do not, ma'am, I want you to understand. I do not hate you. I have known you for a long time. I have known your mother. I've known your father. But I'm telling you, you're going down the wrong road. And you have made it impossible for even your own colleagues to tell you when you are doing something wrong. And I want to reiterate it to the members of Parliament. When the elections are over, you no longer represent the Barbados Labour Party. You represent the constituencies who elected you to sit in Parliament on their behalf. And they expect that if there is anything brought to Parliament that is of a concern to them, that you will raise their concerns in Parliament and you will object when the people object and tell the Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, and any other minister, my people are not comfortable with this. We need to do something about it. But none of you have the intestinal fortitude. And I'm disappointed in some of you. I could call names, but I'm not going to call any. Some of you I know very, very well. And I'm disappointed in you that you don't have the intestinal fortitude to stand up and represent your people who elected you to office. Disappointed in you. You are a great disappointment. Let me cool down. Because I think Dave has a segment here that he's going to share with us that I hope will help to lighten things a little bit before we get back in the depth of things again. And that is that we're going to be looking at some of the crop over highlights, and I'm going to step out of the way and let Dave take it from here. He has some featured music, and I'll come back. I don't know about the discussion over the crop over, but we'll see how it goes. Some of your audio, I'm going to be looking for you all to put up your favorites, songs that make an impact on this season. Whatever you see up, you're listening to the music. To be honest with you, I have to be honest. I haven't been listening to it a lot. I've been really, really busy. Of course, you all know that my number one priority at this stage in my life is my wife and her health, and I'm looking after her to the best of my ability. And I can tell you all, as many of you have asked, that she's doing a lot better. She still has to return to Colombia to complete several medical procedures to completely clear her life of all the things that could put her at risk. And I'm fully behind her. And I'm going to have some exciting news coming up. Some of you all have been meeting me and asking me, told me you haven't heard me singing, you haven't heard my voice for a while. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. All right? But you listen to some of the featured music that we are hearing over this crop season. Hit it, Dave.
Shortcut, through the cemetery, tell you what I see and hear, but you won't believe me. Some dead can Some foreign, some Bajan, gathering around the two man, having conversation. Very hard I swallow when some Rupert fellow. As to have a man-to-man chat, both life and calypso. I saw Winston Bailey standing in the shadow. Someone in the basement from hell, shilling Winston so-so. I was scared as hell, anyone could tell. But the spirit deep within me said this was opportunity. Them tell me don't fuss, you is one of us. Shadow tell me come join, he was dead serious. He tell me don't pay them no mind, them only passing time. Just taking a look at what we left behind. Questions you could ask, answers you could find. Don't be afraid of ghosts, just enjoy the life. I try my best not to be brave, surrounded by legends from the grave, knowing one day that I will be joining them in the cemetery. I try my best not to be brave, surrounded by legends from the grave, knowing one day that I will be joining them in the cemetery. Mommy, oi, oi, mommy, oi. I saw the observer.
Well, there you have it. There you have it.
He said, Izzy, can you tell me about the crime situation? Seems like the brain damage. There's no turning back. Penalty, scratch the surface. We need a cat attack. The love man Romeo, tell me he just don't know how to fix it, brother Fuzzy. Can't believe Jim gone so. Dennis Plummer tell me we just like TNT. Bullets flying, young men dying, but the spirit she not leaving. Music start to play, them start to dingole. That's when I saw Kuru dancing. He and a mad woman jamming. Charmer start to laugh. Oh, 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 just as Dragon pass. Kuru said, don't mind, he's a snake in the grass. They tell me, don't pay them no mind. Mommy, oi, them only passing time. Just little time. Just take it a look. Take a look now. I won't be left behind. Oh, mommy, oi, questions you could ask. Questions. Answers you could find. Answers. Don't be afraid of ghosts. Mommy, oi, just enjoy the life. I tell them, I try my best not to be brave, surrounded by legends from the grave, knowing one day that I will be joining them in the cemetery. I try my best not to be brave, surrounded by legends from the grave, knowing one day that I will be joining them in the cemetery. Mommy, oi, frightened, oh, me frightened, among the legends. Up next, get Black Stallion, a true Caribbean man. He said, I ain't surprised Camelot threatened to leave CARICOM. We had a federation that's pending confusion. She got a trump card now and she intend to use them. What about the kidnapping? Did they really happen? So don't say I Cynthia, not me. And that the case Bozy, Smokey Burke keep asking, is she and me are speaking? Is it persona non grata in the cemetery? It don't matter, Kitchen no agree. Love in the cemetery. No pressure, this is a director. Even so, she is a member. Jackie Opal say, one day you got to pay. I said, I think I'll be leaving. Them say, go long, we'll be waiting. Don't pay them no mind. Don't pay them no. They're only passing time. Mommy, oi. Just take it a look. Just a look. I won't be left behind. What you left behind? Questions you could ask. Ah, yeah. Answers you could find. Answers you could find. Don't be afraid of ghosts. Don't be afraid, boy. Just enjoy the life. So me tell them, I try my best not to be brave. Surrounded by legends from the grave, knowing one day that I will be joining them in the cemetery. I try my best not to be brave. Surrounded by legends from the grave, knowing one day that I will be joining them in the cemetery. Mommy, oi, frightened, among them legends. Oh.
Ramande,
Well, you know, some of these songs, I mean, I'm watching some of your comments. Somebody said here that they want to hear Talk Like Mia by Kid Sight. That's one. I'm not sure of that one. St. John Man singing right in same burial. Oh my goodness. Jamal Slocum, the songs get greater and greater all the way. Come on, let's hear. What is your favorite song so far for the season? You know, we've heard a lot of commentaries. Like I said, I haven't been following them very, very closely. I've been hearing some of them. But, you know, we want to hear from you. Sharon said she met Adrian. Yeah, I've met Adrian myself as well. Find a very nice gentleman. Yes. Somebody said they've not seen crop in about 30 or 40 years. Well, I tell you, it's crop over. I don't know. To be honest with you, talking about crop over, we might have to change the name of the season. I think you ready, Dave? Is that one? That's one, Dave. Let me hear that one. Colors in red. Okay, yeah, I'll hear that.
Life isn't always in black and white. Sometimes there is more than what meets the eye. Just look around, I'm sure you will see the colors and hues that paint this country. Aquamarine oceans and sunshine so golden, with black people struggling daily. A green economy, but up in St. Lucie, you know the water's still looking brown. That's why I pen this song, cause not once but after 3 times it has to be said. Bajans have decided the way they want to be led. And if 92 love don't sink it into your head, Barbados' favorite color got to be red. When the black man bank account never in the black, but the white man lives in a purple patch and is red BCN. Only red BCN. Colorful language is now how we live. We just even use it in front of the kids when it's red BCN. Only red BCN. The NCSA solving their drug fight in the schools. They just only get red lights, man, it's red BCN. Only red BCN. All of the bloodshed, all of that is red. Be red and ready in the LP country. So we going to have a red party, big red party. We go have a red party, big red party. We go have a red party, big red party in the LP country. Some people does flatter to deceive. When they show you their true colors, believe. Cause people will change their colors on you. Some now wearing red, war, yellow, and blue. Like Lashley and Tyra, the latest is simpler. Readily jumping on the red wave. No more using me, they now in the choir. Oh, what a great turnaround. The lost decade has been found, but Armstrong lead the yellow party in 22. After last election, she cast all them black and blue. Not a silver lining to bring them back from the dead. Even James Paul told Barbadians to vote red. At the idea forums that they are hosted by the red plastic Batman is red BCN. Only red BCN. The gun violence got the country doomed like the cricketers that does wear maroon. Man is red we see it, only red we see it. From the government does just talk pretty. What the country needs is transparency, but it's red we see it, only red we see it. Even though he fled, Austin still painting red, but now Ralph can't starve nobody in the LP country. So we going to have a red party, big red party. We go have a red party, big red party. We go have a red party, big red party in the LP country. In the country's kaleidoscope.
Well, there you have it. I'm seeing red, 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 and it's dread, dread, dread. You know, when your bank account is in the red, because I made a couple of notes while the song was going. Barbados seeing red. The color for Barbados now is red. That's a fact, because just now Maxine McLean going to join me, and I'm going to tell you the country seeing red, red, red. Because the country is real debt. I can tell you that, real debt. I don't even want to tell you the figure, because some of you all might lose your mind if you hear it. And then you read the debt. You know that, and we'll talk about it, you know, just this evening. Let me bring in Miss McLean, because I really got to say this with her present, and you all with her. So let me bring her into the studio this evening. Good evening. You listen. I know you are Maxine.
Are you hearing me?
I am hearing you loud and clear.
Beautiful.
Are you hearing me okay?
Very well, sir.
Good. I know you are a former senator.
Yes, sir.
But you know, I observe in some countries, even after you've left office, people still carry the title. You know, presidents in the United States are still considered presidents and senators and so on. So I am not going to call you former Senator Maxine McLean. I am going to call you Senator Maxine McLean.
It's not our tradition. Traditionally was not the case, but some people do. So
some people
one way
still
or the
do.
other, that's it. I mean, I have no difficulty.
But I will tell you, I have the highest respect for you, ma'am. I learned so much from you, and I thank God for the opportunity to be on the show, sharing with you, because I learn a lot from the years and years, not just politically, but I've often heard you talk about things to do with business and banking and so on. And I tell you, I hope you're writing a book. I hope you're doing some memoirs. I hope you are preparing some I don't know if to call them manuals that can be presented either in our schools or in our university, because you carry a wealth of knowledge that should not be lost. And that's what I would say to you. But good evening and welcome.
Good evening,
it's a pleasure
and thank you for that
you.
comment. And I appreciate it. In fact, I do not want to be guilty of what I often say to others, that we fail to write. Funny enough, only last night I was working on some material for a book to be jointly authored. And
really,
wow. The other person said to me, "I hope you're still interested." And I sat down after the conversation, and this is perhaps how I am. And I sat down, and thank you very much, Tironi. I started to do some research, because I think it is critical that we do. I mean, over the years, I've been out of the classroom full time for a long time, but I think it's critical that we write. And I have tons of material. I've started writing, for example, on the credit union movement and this whole notion of people's economic enfranchisement, or economic empowerment. Hi, Sharon P2E. And I think it is important. So I will try and persevere and make the time. I tend to outline things and then I get distracted. You get caught up in other things. And one of the things that I've learned, that multitasking sometimes is a good thing, but it is also a bad thing, because your energies are pulled in so many directions.
Yes, yeah,
and
absolutely.
my son used to tell me that I used to make him dizzy because I'd be talking to him and doing things and so on, multitasking. But I've been trying to follow some instructions from him to maybe focus on one, couple of things rather than too many things at a time. But I am happy to be here. In fact, perhaps because I multitask, I've been trying to grapple with so many issues that are out there,
Yes,
and seem to be left hanging. And I listened carefully to your discussion earlier. And what I want to do this evening really is to follow some of what you were discussing, because as I listen to the comments of the Prime Minister, and certainly I will speak to that after I say something about air transport and tourism, because it ties in very much with some of what you're saying. I listened to you, hi Sonia Grant, I listened to you talk about the Prime Minister's statements at the recent Heads of Government Conference in St. Lucia. And while I don't have a brief for any distributor and so on, I really agree with you that when it comes to the cost of living, because I saw something that said that the cost maybe, is it food, has gone up by 21% or something like this.
Yes.
And I say to myself, while our retailers, and I think, as somebody reminded the public, Massey is a public company, so their financials are there. And I will say this: it is not my choice of shopping for most of what I buy, because it's often more expensive.
Yes.
But I would say to a policymaker in the form of the Prime Minister, who used to be Minister of Finance, and who has her hands tightly on her ministers and so on, and I'm sure at the level of cabinet, she has a lot to say in policies and programs that emanate from cabinet, that the first place to start is with those things that you can control. And you touched on that when you talked about the whole issue of the VAT, because you see, when prices go up, VAT take goes up. Because if something costs me $100 today, and we're paying 17.5%, that's $17.50 that the government gets. If it goes up 10% more, the government gets an extra $1.75. So it goes now, it goes up proportionately. And so in essence, in an inflationary period, government is raking in a lot more money. Now, I say that against the background. And so that is one of the issues. And I will probably touch back on that. But we are talking about increasing costs in a time where our main industry is facing some interesting times. And I start with JetBlue, and I'm sure I heard an item in relation to American Airlines as well. And for many people, we know that JetBlue is the airline that has been moving a lot of Barbadians out of New York, for example. And if Dave could play the first couple minutes of a video, if he can, JetBlue has been bleeding, has been losing money.
Yes.
So if you play a couple minutes of this, maybe about 3 minutes of this, or just a little bit less, we will get to understand what's happening there.
JetBlue Airways built one of the strangest airlines in America. Half hipster startup, half discount carrier, half premium leisure brand. It flew where the legacies wouldn't. It undercut the low-cost carriers on service and undercut the legacies on price. And by the mid-2010s, the beating heart of that entire strategy was one region, the Caribbean and Latin America. JetBlue flew to Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, and dozens of smaller islands. Fort Lauderdale became their fortress for Latin flights. San Juan became a full-blown focus city. The Caribbean wasn't just part of JetBlue's business. For a while, it defined the airline. Then, in the span of 2 years, JetBlue killed most of it. South America, gone. Bogota, Lima, Quito, all shut down. 15 cities exited from the network entirely, 50 routes deleted. An entire growth model quietly walked away from. Most people never noticed. The airline just kept flying. But behind the scenes, JetBlue was making the most dramatic strategic retreat in modern U.S. aviation history. This is the story of how the Caribbean built JetBlue, and how JetBlue eventually decided the Caribbean wasn't worth it anymore. Let me give you the number that frames everything. $795 million. That's how much JetBlue lost in 2024. It lost another $602 million in 2025. Add those together, and JetBlue has lost nearly $1.4 billion in the past 2 years alone. For context, JetBlue has not been profitable since 2019, not one single full year of profit in 6 years. In an industry where Delta earned $5 billion last year and United earned $3.4 billion.
Okay, we can pause there. Because at the heart of this story is an airline which for 20 years would have basically been in the Caribbean. So as the video, this story said, JetBlue is quietly abandoning the Caribbean after 20 years. And I share that because it is a situation where the airline is not just leaving because it probably wasn't making enough. It's losing money. And so the likelihood that JetBlue can reverse that decision is not very great. It is highly unlikely that it can reverse the decision. Now, my question is, and I'm just going to pose some questions because we're going to have to delve deeper into some of these things. Now, here's the other one that we have to look at. American Airlines New York Barbados route ends on September 7th. Now, think about it. JetBlue was our main carrier out of New York. And it didn't only bring tourists, it brought Barbadians back home. Now, I think if I am not mistaken, I think I heard a news clip where the Minister of Tourism was suggesting that this was, it says American Airlines will discontinue its direct service between New York's JFK and Barbados from September 7th, ending the route earlier than previously expected. And so the question really and truly is, with JetBlue exiting the region, and we can go and see what the timelines are, and JetBlue, as it was a main carrier for that New York route. And we know that New York airports are important to Barbadians across the U.S. Many people transited. Miami, American is there. We now have to look and see what happens. I know at some point JetBlue was also flying out to certain and at least one airport in Florida to Barbados as well. So the question is, what is the impact that is going to have on passenger arrivals in Barbados? And so that is something we have to look at. As I said, if I heard the minister correctly, he was saying that he doesn't anticipate it to be a major problem. Now, I put that. The other issue that we have to look at when we are talking about the North American market and the exit of part of the airlift of American Airlines and the airlift, it sounds like to me of JetBlue, is the fact that the other concern we have to have is the fact that the UK market, which has been a mainstay for our industry, has not been performing well. And so the question, it has not been performing as well as we would like. And something that they do not tell you, when a flight for a number of years, and again, I would have to go and try and get the statistics because we are not seeing a lot of those things. The flights coming in from on, let's say, British Airways, for example, and maybe Virgin as well. Some of those passengers aren't. Barbados is not their final destination. A significant number may be going to the OECS. You know, we have not been getting lost statistics. Add to that the other confusion that we seem to have had. Remember that we had a situation where recently almost, was it 26,000 plus passengers were supposed to be subtracted from the arrivals.
Yes,
The
27,000.
arrivals were overstated by that number. And it leads me to ask the question, how reliable are the statistics that we're getting? We have raised that on this show more than once. I certainly would have discussed it. Where we are questioning whether the same kind of statistical rigor is possible. In other words, are we compiling statistics in as reliable a manner as we have done previously? So not only are we not getting proper numbers, are we getting proper information on tourism spend? You mentioned earlier this evening that people are not spending like they were before, you know. And so that is one of the things that I think that we need to hear some more from the minister. We need to hear some more from the Barbados Tourism BTMI, Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. That's what it is. We need to hear from those officials. And then we need to hear from our people in foreign affairs whether or not our nationals in US are having some challenges, you know, what's going to happen, let's say, in terms of the Christmas season, because people will get home for crop over if they're coming, you know, but are they going to be able to get home for Christmas and after that in the same way that they were? So we need to get some information. So that is one issue. Another issue, as I said, I want to flag some things, and I want to link what sorry, go ahead.
Can I interrupt you just for a minute, Maxine?
No, interrupt. You can. It's not an interruption.
This comment here by
Electronic Crazy.
Electronic Crazy. I did see this. As a matter of fact, I believe, and I stand to be corrected, I believe that the purchase actually went through because it took over some of Spirit's routes. And I did see this video that I'm not sure if it's the same one you just showed, but I saw that they were abandoning particularly the South American routes. And I was looking to see what was going to be happening with the Caribbean where JetBlue was concerned. You asked about you mentioned about the Florida. The Florida location actually was Fort Lauderdale, where it was flying out of Fort Lauderdale. And I am just wondering, Maxine, if based on the movement of the people that these two carriers accommodated, especially out of New York, and I think the other one was out of Atlanta. I think there was one out of Atlanta. It didn't come, I don't believe it came directly to Barbados. I think it came either via New York or via Miami or something like that. What happens, and I'm not even going to get into the UK tourism aspect. I'm just talking about the local aspect right now. What happens if these two I can't even say what happens if, because you said just now that American Airlines has indicated it is leaving September 7th. And JetBlue is considering leaving. How then could a minister state that, if I can paraphrase, it ain't no big deal? Is that serious?
Yeah, you see, this is where I think that, especially in an environment where on a daily basis you do not have when these things are raised in Parliament, for example, you don't get the reaction because there's no opposition in the lower house, for example. That they need to come with statistics. If you're going to tell me that, you need to say to me, I mean, and in all fairness to the minister, a news item is a clip, and if he's speaking to a journalist, and they probably need to ask the question, but also if information is provided. In fact, if the information were provided, I believe a responsible journalist would carry it. So let me make the point that I started. If you're telling me that it is not a major cause for concern, it is no big deal, show me why. Give me some numbers which says, you know what? Our passenger arrivals on American out of New York is X number of passengers. And that X number represents Y percentage of total arrivals. Okay? And we anticipate that that slack will be taken up by A, B, C, E, D, F, and G, or whatever the case may be. So I think you don't just toss that out there and let it go. And then later on we come back and we hear people can't get in, Barbadians can't get home for Christmas. It's the 60th anniversary of independence, and we were planning all kinds, or hearing of plans of things, and people can't get home if they were, so don't just in what comes across as a kind of, I wouldn't say cavalier, because I don't think that but in an offhanded kind of manner, in the absence of information, treat us with some kind of respect. And I agree, we the public is a thinking public, even if not every one of them is interested in certain things. We need to know. People also need to know these things when they plan their business, because you anticipate that so many passengers are going to come, and these are the things they do, and therefore your business is affected. But I just wanted to clarify. I did a little check, and from what I'm reading, JetBlue did not buy Spirit. That the two airlines said it had initially agreed to a $3.8 billion merger in 2022, and a federal judge blocked the deal in January 2024.
Right. That's correct.
Antitrust,
I remember that.
Antitrust concerns.
Yeah, thanks for correcting.
So they officially terminated the agreement in March 2024. So that is one of the areas of concern. Now I want to touch on, expand on in some way on one of the issues you raised about the cost of living, and what we are doing as a country. Because when I think of Massey, I think, and that's what the Prime Minister talking about, the cost of living, I think of the first thing that people have to focus on is food and shelter, right? Mm-hmm. You need somewhere to live, and you need some food to eat. And so how do I, as it says here, Motley's comments spark grocery pricing debate. And we all heard and you spoke to it, but I want to say, how does that story, her comments, how do the comments of the Prime Minister, her comments, sit for me against the background of some things that the Minister of Agriculture and the government would have been promising us? So as it says, the public rebuke of Massey Holdings by Barbados Prime Minister on Monday has ignited a storm of debate, ignited a wider debate over supermarket pricing, market concentration, and competition across the Caribbean. Now, I want to flag some of these things because I can tie it into something else: market concentration and competition. And if you go across the Caribbean, you would notice that there are certain patterns of distribution and so on. But I want to move away now from the business to the responsibility of the government and governments. And I will step away from the pricing a little bit to make an observation that has become increasingly concerning for me over the last 3 or so years, that I have had reason to either leave Barbados and be in other parts of the Caribbean or encountered Caribbean people. There was a time when Barbadians were seen as the obese people of the Caribbean, right? Barbadians were eating relatively, compared to our brothers and sisters in the OECS, Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad, and Tobago, our diets were less nutritious. We were eating a lot more processed foods. And as a result, from observation, and I'm sure empirical evidence would suggest this, obesity was more rampant in Barbados. I have had the opportunity recently to be at a conference where you had persons from across the Caribbean. And I've traveled to a couple countries in the region in the last, as I said, 3 years or so. And it is of particular concern for me that I am seeing, and in many cases, I have not seen as many heavy people in Barbados as I've seen. In other words, let me put it this way in a general statement. The level of extreme obesity across the Caribbean has escalated. I would say probably increased exponentially, because when I thought of the people in the Caribbean, I saw people eating natural foods, foods that were grown provisions where you got complex carbohydrates, more fruits and vegetables and so on. And what I'm seeing now across the Caribbean is a penchant. People are moving towards buying fast foods or takeout, in which they are probably eating a lot more, but less balanced diets, etc. Sometimes what we may also be seeing is that people may be getting bellyfuls, but not a belly full of the most nutritious food. And my question to Prime Minister Motley and her colleagues, while there's a debate on supermarket pricing, and this takes us back to your comments, some of your comments earlier, Pastor, what are governments doing? In the case of the Barbados government, what is the government doing to ensure that Barbadians in this case are able to access a lot more nutritious foods? And I'm talking first about local production, right? Of fruits and vegetables and so on. And it takes me then, having heard the Prime Minister say this, where does the promise of the government, as captured in a comment by the former Minister of Agriculture as recently as December last year, about what they were proposing to do? And this article, this story comes from, it captures a comment of the Minister of Agriculture at the time, in Darwin, who was speaking at the 50th Sir Winston Scott Memorial Lecture. I presume after the presentation, I was speaking to the journalists, but this captures a comment where he was talking about and you scroll down a little bit. So it says the climate crisis continues to pose serious challenge in the Caribbean. Agriculture remains one of the most vulnerable sectors, and it explains why. And so it says that ensuring food security is a critical national priority. So if food security is a critical national priority, the expectation of Jane and John citizens is that they will see not only effort, but results. And so I find it interesting that here, for example, during this, the minister shared, as it said, an update on several initiatives government has implemented to build resilience and modernize the agricultural landscape. And it goes on to say, among the major programs highlighted was the Farmers Empowerment and Enfranchisement Drive a Field program that was created to attract more young people to the agricultural sector, according to the minister. And so they talked about the number of participants. My question is, having started that project, and what has happened? Can we hear something about the produce produced? Can we hear whether or not these farmers are able to get their produce in any supermarket in Barbados? Are they able to get their produce sold? I have on some Sundays come home from church to listen to an agriculture to brass tacks, which and a special program on agriculture. And on multiple occasions, I have heard complaints about local farmers being unable to sell, whether it's pumpkins, melons, butternut squash, you name it, because local onions was very much in the news recently. And that is a special case because importation of onions, as far as I recall, is largely controlled by a government entity that was not even seen to be selling local onions when there were significant quantities on the market. So the point I'm making, as I hear about pricing, there are some policies that should emanate from government that can impact on the cost of food, that can impact on the quality of food. And we get these promises. If Dave scrolls down a little bit, there's another project that I want to know what's happening. In addition, government has established greenhouses across several secondary schools, giving students first-hand experience in producing food. Well, those are probably more teaching tools, but of course, I trust that they can in some way contribute to the food consumed by the children. But the important thing is, I want to go to the next paragraph. In addition, he highlighted the introduction of vertical farming, particularly for leafy greens and herbs. And you know what I want to say, Pastor Nichols? This vertical farming that they have talked about is an extremely expensive proposition. I remember the minister, and I would do my research and find the exact statistics, citing the cost of a specific number of units of these vertical farms. What it is, they're like containers, which are fitted with computerized systems, etc. But they're very expensive. Now, and I shared it on one of these programs because I spoke about it. I know a young man, and I guess I can identify him as, and he's an in-law of mine, married to one of my relatives, who contemplated investing in one of these and discussed it with me. And when we looked at the price, it was not realistic. But you know what he did? He went and designed his own system, and he's had it operating.
But Maxine, there was a young man, I don't recall his name. I must try and find it for my son. A Barbadian young man that started to do agricultural farming and so on in containers. It didn't go off well here, but I understand that he did it in New York or in the New York area and is doing very well. I will try and find it for my son who he is, because you know how these young people move, together in terms of the information and so on.
Right.
But when I hear you talk about this vertical farming, Maxine, a couple of things are coming to mind when I hear people talk about agriculture, even myself. Does the government understand the cost of inputs? I don't know if they understand the cost of inputs and how that relates to what something can be retailed for. Because if you're going to look at the cost of inputs, first of all, the development of the land, the plowing, the cost of diesel, the fertilization that has to go into the preparation of the land. You know, at one time they used to do, I don't know if the right word is cycling of sugarcane land. You used to grow sugarcane this year, and then they did potatoes, and then rotation. That's the word. So that what the cane took out, the potatoes or edibles or whatever put back in, so that the next season the crop would be better. I don't know how much of that is done now, because I think about, whenever I'm thinking about the cost of living in Barbados and food, I'm thinking about what it costs in terms of input as it relates to what someone can sell for. And my research shows me, I can't name the countries because I didn't come prepared for this one, but my research shows me that a lot of countries that we import, particularly healthy foods, let's say vegetables, cabbages, we see iceberg lettuces in the thing from New Zealand and all these different kind of places. they're subsidized by government or assisted
Yeah,
by government.
very
And I
much
am
so.
asking the question, how much subsidizing is done here? Because our farmers just simply cannot compete.
But you see, the other thing is that that is one. So in other words, that there's certain kinds of incentives that are needed. But there's a simple thing of saying, look, people know. I'll give you an example. I was talking to one of my great nephews. I I was reminded today that there are four generations. I met my great great niece, a 6-year-old lovely little girl, and so on. But I was talking to this my great nephew. He and a couple of his cousins got together and decided they're gonna raise chickens, right? And I said to him before, one of the things I said, a simple bit of advice I'm going to give you, because and it's interesting, I gave him that information because I heard James Paul today talking about storage constraints in terms of one of the major companies that farmers would go and pay to store their chickens and so on, is saying that they have limitations on capacity and to make available to farmers. But I said to the young man, I said, one of the things y'all have to do as a small group is pre-sell your chickens. In other words, you know that a chicken takes 6 to 8 weeks. I think that's the growing cycle. So if you have a batch of 200 chickens, do not wait till those chickens are taken or you're getting ready to take them to be slaughtered to figure out how you're going to sell them. Now, the point I use that and I'll come back to Rosalind's question about rice. Well, let me say it now. That rice is supposed to be called upland rice, and they don't use as much water. I don't know, so they have to come back and tell me. But the question is, should we prioritize growing rice? And I agree with the question. I mean, if it does not require significant water and it is a total move away from the traditional rice paddies, that's a different story. But back to the point I'm making. In the same way that I can advise my nephews, when you grow your batches of chickens, contract to sell them before. The farmers in Barbados and the people who grant import licenses and so on can very easily get realistic estimates of certain crops and produce and so on. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that in
yes.
essence, rather than say, well, we don't have an idea how much onions the farmers produce, we have what used to be called extension officers, persons, technical support. I don't know what they call them. Probably have a nice fancy word for them now. Liaison, extension is what they used to call them when I was a girl. Minister of Agriculture people and the Ministry of Agriculture staff, who would go out there and say, okay, we have 40 farmers planting onions. So many acres are in the field, are on the onions. And the best case scenario is that we will produce X amount to thousands of pounds. An average middle case scenario is we will produce X minus what? And worst case scenario, we will produce only X amount. So in other words, you have a set of projections which say to you, in the best case, we don't need to import onions at all for this period, or we may need to import so much. So in essence, you're not shooting in the dark, or you shouldn't be shooting in the dark. That you should be able to come and say, these are the quantities, and compile that information, and not only compile the information, monitor what is happening. Similarly, my understanding, and Hainsley Ben, a former Minister of Agriculture, a man who has been in agriculture for many, many years, who used to be the head of, CEO of BAS some years ago. I have heard him speak on at least 3 or 4 occasions in recent times about these issues. And I heard him talk about the importation of pork into this country. And I would say that in one case, or in one scenario, pork is imported in Barbados for processing. for making ham and probably bacon or whatever other products. It is not imported to be sold in a supermarket, in a butcher stall. It is imported for processing. Now, I have seen where a processor might have, when they finish their production process, they may have what I for want of a better word, bits and pieces that cannot be processed to make, a particular item, and they may sell pork, what do you call it now, stew or something, small pieces. But what we're hearing is people are bringing in pork, and the allegation is that it is making it difficult for local farmers. And again, I say that with the necessary statistics gathered, we can project what is, if or what we need to import. So, we make a big song and dance. Ironically, that song and dance is taking place at a time when only last week I heard concerns raised about situations where people were imported. I didn't hear the minister come and refute it or share what was being done to prevent it. But we're hearing now that supermarkets have to look at their pricing. And I have no difficulty, because I believe that some prices are, when you make comparisons, much higher than I feel they should be. But I also feel very strongly, and I know that enough is not being done by our policymakers and our enforcers to ensure that we can do a lot more at the domestic level. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Well, I was just checking the comments of some persons in the chat while you were speaking. Somebody spoke about the Cayman Islands, Barbados. Cayman Islands is the second most expensive. Barbados is at number 5. I want to remind Barbadians that in the Cayman Islands, you don't pay income tax. I want to remind them of that. So when you talk about a country that is the second most expensive, where people don't pay income tax, and their duties, Maxine, are nowhere near ours. I know for a fact that you pay between 35 to 65% import duty on a car in Grand Cayman. You pay nearly 200% duties on cars coming into Barbados if they're not electric vehicles. So I just want to remind persons that while it may be considered to be second most expensive, and I was just comparing, and Dave, I don't know if Dave could pull up those gasoline prices that he had. He had some gasoline prices up last week when I was on the show, in terms of how our fuel cost, because fuel is a very important component of costing for merchants in the country. But I will say this, Maxine, from personal experience, I know, did not the government carry a contingency of business people to Brazil in terms of exploring food purchasing? And I know for a fact that food coming out of South America, Brazil specifically, is considerably less expensive than from other markets. And of course, we can get them quite quickly now based on how things are established in I think it's the OECS. Is that what it is? I think that's what it's called. Right. Yeah, pull that up, Dave, as much as you can, because fuel cost is a very important component of what has as to be the input for production in Barbados and retail in Barbados. He has what?
Guyana is the lowest.
Is the lowest. And okay, scroll down.
426. Trinidad.
That's US dollars per gallon.
Yeah,
Trinidad
per gallon. So Trinidad is 432. Puerto Rico is 450. Suriname 490. St. Lucia number 5 at 516. Grenada 524 US per gallon. 7 is Haiti at 572. Jamaica is 582. Aruba is 583. Dominican Republic, Curacao, and Cayman Islands have the same price at 587. Barbados is off the chart, down at
$7.54.
$7.54.
When I talk about Barbados being more expensive than the Cayman Islands, I know what I'm talking about. I have lived there for 8 months. And I live in Barbados, and I can tell you Barbados is more expensive than the Cayman Islands when it comes to going into the supermarket and shopping. You can see from fuel costs, which is a input into the supermarket, because they have to transport their goods by diesel vehicles. And I am telling you that when I can go into the supermarket, I spent 8 months there. I don't think at any point in time, Maxine, my bill went over $150. I mean, I was single, give you a grant, and I'm talking on a roughly a bi-weekly basis. But when I look at the cost of Kellogg's Corn Flakes, selling here for what? $7 and something cents US, or maybe more. Good evening, Mr. Apostle Lynroy Scantlebury. Pardon
Good
me
evening, sir.
for not acknowledging you. I did bring you in, but we are so taken up with this stuff, and I hope you've been following us. Good evening.
Yes, sir.
And welcome to the show. I mean, I think we're going to have a very intriguing discussion, because I think you're both we are all dealing with the cost of living issues, and there can be no question about it. The input components are staggering here.
Yes, sir.
They're staggering.
sir.
I mean, fuel costs is a major input in anybody's business. Maxine,
That's good.
please, you're the expert in this area. I am not
Me?
the expert, but I mean, Kadir, help me out here. You have to transport goods. You have to plow your fields. I mean, fuel is a critical input into everything. And
I am sure Apostle understands this just better than me. I mean,
I don't know if you heard my comment earlier tonight when we were talking about the abolition of road tax. And I made the comment that the government is collecting more at the pump in road tax
Yes, sir.
than they would have ever collected using the traditional method of road tax. What
Yes.
is happening with all of that money?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Welcome,
Yes, sir.
Apostle. Maxine, I just want to give him a chance, because I know he's been listening to some of your comments. If you could
Yes.
comment, Apostle, and we'll share together on this
Yes,
matter,
sir.
because this is a critical
Yes, sir.
issue to do with Barbadians.
Yes, it is. Well, good evening to you, Rev. Good to see you again, and always good to see Madam Maxine online tonight with Mr. for a couple of shows. But great to see you here tonight, ma'am. And I was listening very carefully to your contribution.
thank you.
Yes, and obviously well thought out and well laid out. And I'm always ready to take notes whenever you're on. So we're going to try to keep you talking as much as possible tonight. So
You see, I let me get away with it. I write it.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got my tablet right in front of me, so I'm just ready to go. So I listened so much tonight to what was being said, and I think we have a major problem here in Barbados, and the Ministry of Agriculture obviously has been, as the old folk used to say, dog dancing around the issue of agriculture and productivity and diversification of our agricultural system. But I think what has happened in Barbados over the years, unlike countries who have made significant strides in the development of their agricultural industry, we seem to have a planting mindset, but not necessarily a futuristic mental construct. And how do we preserve the landscape here in Barbados for future agriculture? And then the element of what is it going to take to make Barbados sustainable and make our agricultural system sustainable for not just those of us who are here, but also for future generations. And being an individual who grew up in the country, and I've seen where I grew up where there were pretty much all kind of trees, all kind of fruit trees, and persons who work their land and produce crops and share their crops with those of us who lived in the community. But I've also lived in St. Andrew, St. Peter, and I've seen how there's been shifts in what is growing, when it's growing. Of course, all folk used to tell you that May means yam. So, they have their own methodology to when they would plant certain crops. But one of the things that I saw, and this is in relation to the sugar cane, and I spoke to Dr. Cassandra Bellamy. Was at an event that we had a chance to talk, and so we started to talk about cane. And one of the things that she said about the soil in Barbados is that it loses its nutrients very, very quickly because of the sun. And I gave her an idea, and she said, well, you need to come see me so that we can have a conversation about this. I grew up when we knew sugarcane by numbers. Okay, the 129, the 151, 152, the juicy. So
I only knew brown skin girls and frozen joys.
Yeah, I could tell you what cane it was from just looking at it. Okay, and she said to me, how old are you? And I told her how old I was. She said, and all of these numbers, when we had canes by numbers. By that time, they were bringing cane in from Jamaica. She told me they brought cane in from Jamaica doing the experiments and stuff like that because of the nutrients issue. And so I gave her an idea. I told her that the rubber tree, when it's very, very young, if you break the tops of it and you rub it in your hand, it becomes very oily and it becomes very soapy. And so I told her, why don't you have a system where you earmark an area, you plant the rubber trees and you harvest them and you make a natural fertilizer out of that. And she said, okay, well, you need to actually come see me and let's talk about that. Because Barbados is pretty much littered with the rubber tree. Mm-hmm. And so I said that would become, if it is done, you could spray that in the ground and it would become a natural local fertilizer for our fields, and you would not have to bring in the other types of canes from other countries that might yield more sugar, but we're looking at quality as well too. So one of the things that I've seen in Barbados, again, diversifying our markets, farmers that are specializing, okay? Farmers that are specializing in certain areas. The Soil Conservation Unit had the idea in the beginning with what they were doing there in the Scotland district, planting the fruit trees and doing things with engrafting. We went into that. I remember when I was a boy at the All Saints Primary School, we did a tour of Greenland, and at the time, under the Democratic Labour Party, they had brought in a couple of Dorsets out of, I think it was Ireland. It's either Ireland or Scotland, and they were planning on mating those with the local black belly sheep because they had said that the lanolin that is from the black belly sheep in Barbados is much richer than the lanolin that is produced from the wool from the Dorset sheep that they had. So they wanted to merge the two. And I remember as a young boy, and I went there to Greenland, and that project was going on. And after I grew up and I had some of the guys who worked there who are now older, and I asked them about that project, and they told me that that project was shut down by the Barbados Labour Party. When they came to power, they shut that project down. And so you could see that there were plans to diversify our industry that was clearly coming out of the Democratic Labour Party. But there's no clear defined diversification program that we're seeing from this current administration, because in 8 years, if that was definitely the plan, you would have seen a clear-cut imagery of a plan, a strategy to make agriculture better in Barbados, and we have not seen that. The other element that I want to talk about is the fact that why haven't some of our farmers, why have they been put to specialize in the growing of certain crops so that they can focus on that crop. They can travel and find out what other countries are doing to make that crop and to produce higher, greater quality yields. Why haven't we done that? Okay. As I said, the Soil Conservation Unit, they had in the day, we called it the Coconut Walk, where they had all of these coconut trees, and we would go there as young boys, and we would roast breadfruit and drink coconut water. So they had that, and now we have countries that are doing that. There are countries that are producing coconut water. There are industries where people, they produce coconut water with the jelly from the coconut. So we've lost a lot of it. So we do not have any breadfruit farms. We don't have any indigenous, Paui mango farms here in Barbados. We don't have any cherry tree farms, no golden apple farms. We don't have anything that is indigenous to Barbados that we can have a clear-cut person who is a farmer and specializes in these areas, so that we have farmers that this is a yam producer, instead of having 17 or 20 different farmers producing tomatoes, and then you have this excess of products just lying there, can't be sold and have to be thrown away. It's crazy. So one of the things that must happen, with all of this talk that they're always going, because these folk, as Mr. Stewart says, these folk like to put the shoes on and they want to put the socks on afterwards. So, this is the issue that we're having. And what is critical right now is if we want a healthier population, we have got to deal with this issue of the high cost of living. Because if you're forcing the average Barbadian, the average family, to eat and to buy what is unhealthy for them, okay? Now we can talk about when we were growing up, the products that we ate as children out of the supermarket, the issue was on quality, okay? But right now, most of these companies are just producing products, and the bottom line is the dollar, how much profit they're going to be making at the end of the year. So we're looking at this from a broader base. And again, you cannot have someone who does not know about agriculture talk to the country about agriculture, or you can't expect them to have a strong mental consciousness about what we need to do with our agriculture market if you have not been there. I spoke to a lady, and she was explaining to me they took the top brass of a particular company during the crop season into the fields. They wanted to see the harvester in operation, and they wanted to see how things were going. And they told me they took them into the fields, and they're there with their tie on and their jackets on and looking all professional. And
just a minute. Where you in the field?
Yeah.
With jackets and ties on.
Yeah, of course, they're from the top brass, so they show up with their SUVs and AC and everything. So, and they told me one of them asked, "What is this? What is this white thing that is on the field on the ground? What is this white thing that is on the ground? What is this called?" And they told me, they said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Well, the white stuff that is on the ground right here, from this." She said, she told them it's called trash. Okay, it's called trash.
No. Where were these people coming from?
Okay, well, not to call any name, but they were coming from. They were coming from a very high-end insurance company here in Barbados. Okay, I'm not going to call any name.
Yeah,
she said,
that's okay. That's okay.
She looked at them and said, "It's called trash." So, how are you owning land in Barbados, and you don't have any idea that what is left on the ground after the harvester has passed through is called trash? You have no concept of what we need to do to make our country better, and that's the problem. We've now gotten to the point where stupidity seems to be the new brilliance.
I wouldn't even get into the proverbs and whatnot with regards to that. But let me say something very quickly. Let me answer Mr. Michael Nurse a minute. Michael, I lived in Grand Cayman. I do not check international sources for cost of living. I check my pocket, my card, and my bank account. And I'm telling you, Cayman Islands is not as expensive as Barbados. I'm not asking anybody. I live there. You can't argue with me about argue with a person what's he saying, Maxine? A person with experience is never at the mercy of a person with knowledge. I think that is how it goes.
There you go.
I think it's something like that. Okay, so
There you
please,
go.
Michael, let's rest this matter to do with Barbados and Cayman Islands. Okay, because I have seen a lot of figures in the international arena to do with the pandemic, adverse effects, and with the pandemic mortality rate, and it is incorrect massively. So please, stay out of the international sources and try and find some other sources to think. The second thing I want to comment on, if I can, Maxine, I heard you talk something about vertical farming, and I made a note. Because if you're shifting to vertical farming, and I heard the current Minister of Finance talking about technological and, AI and all this kind of stuff, agriculture. And I thought to myself, so what you're trying to do is to reduce how much land is actually used for agriculture so that you can convert or repurpose its use for residential. Because you gotta look for some place to build houses for these people who are coming to invest into Barbados. And I just wonder if beneath the surface, and I stand to be corrected, I don't want to be accusing anybody about any nefarious activity, but we have, I don't know if you all have driven around Barbados. Have you seen how much, I almost said idle, how much idle land?
A good word. Idle is a good word.
We have a ton of idle land in Barbados. I
agree,
Apostle, about, do you remember the days done by Haggett's factory, down in St. Andrew, when there were acres of fruit trees? Does anybody remember that?
Of course.
And it's like the whole thing has just fallen apart. What is the problem? I don't want to hear anything about no vertical farming. Get back to how we always used to do it. Get the sheep manure, put it in the field, get the pig manure, the stuff coming out. Well, they ain't got the factories now where we used to get. You remember that? Where we used to get the stuff?
Get the bagasse.
Yes, but I think if I might, there are a lot of techniques that you can do underground. I mean, for example, they're shade houses, not greenhouses, shade houses. Yeah. There are things where you use certain kinds of materials to prevent the weeds from, you simply spread these sheets of, I have to get the right title of the material, and it stops the weeds from forcing their way through among the, let's say, the vegetables or whatever the case may be. And just very quickly before you continue, Apostle, as you were speaking, so people don't feel that you make up what you just said about the river tamarind. River tamarind, as it says, compost and soil health. The plant fixes nitrogen in the soil naturally.
Correct.
Locals often use the plant as organic mulch or compost. Right. And I will come back to that when you're through.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And that was the idea that I picture. And she said, I have to really go and think about this. But I grew up in an era where there was so much of it, and I saw how it grew. I saw how it grew in regular soil. I saw how it grew in St. Andrew, where I grew up, how it grew in that clay soil, and it grew differently in different soils. Okay. Yes, sir.
Apostle and Maxine, what about green peas? We used to have green pea trees growing all over the country to the point where you could drive anywhere at all, stop on the side of the road and pick peas for Christmas. Yeah. So what about producing green peas? I don't see green peas imported to the island naturally by anybody. I stand to be corrected. No. I see them in a can, but I don't see them.
You may get some frozen, but as you said, that was a standard kind of thing.
Exactly.
And before, if I could, before you move away from the River Tamarin, because I remember there was a whole set of talk about some of it being planted. The problem is, in fact, the point you made that I took away from what you said is different stages of the life of the plant
Yes, ma'am.
offer different things. For example, the younger plant, you feed it, and again, I look because I remember this is a protein-rich food for animals,
Yes.
for
Yep.
goats and cattle. And I
Yep.
remember Hainsley Ben, and I'm gonna go back and see if I can find it. Hainsley, when we were in cabinet, brought a number of things. I mean, where you saw how they prepared the feed for the younger trees, and then you had the older ones where you use the stalks and so on to create mulch. Because in North America, for example, during when the temperatures drop, and in our case, we would be looking to preserve moisture. You use what you call it, mulch. Like you would see the Americans would use kind of wood chip looking type things. So you shred the stalks and so on. So there are a whole set of things that can be done, and what you're recommending, Apostle, is what our parents and grandparents did routinely.
Yes, ma'am.
And we moved away from some of these things, and we want to use more commercial feeds, etc. But that's a good point, and I'm happy at least the person, I think I wrote her name, Dr. What was it? Bellamy? I think that was Emily met. She was wise to take your advice.
Yes. Yeah. I'll go further with this as well too, because and as you said, at certain stages, I know there was one time where there was a youngster who had fallen ill, had certain boils. As children we would call them pox. And I remember his dad brought some rhubarb that was very young, the young one, and he rubbed it in his hand and bathed him with it. And pretty much within a few days, the boils and stuff started to disappear. So it does have medicinal properties as well too. So it's something that you can evolve into soaps and probably lotions or shampoos or stuff. So Barbados has what it takes to enrich its own people, employ its own people. But again, we're not seeing any of these levels coming from the Ministry of Agriculture. So again, what are you actually trying to say to the people when, there's a lot of talk? I live next door to my good friend, Mr. Gibbs, who was the Consul General to Geneva under the Democratic Labour Party, and we have
former permanent secretary.
Yes, ma'am. Really, really, and I love sitting and having conversation with him, because he has a brilliant mind, brilliant mind. And he looked at me one day and he said, "Young Scant," he said, having a good idea is one thing, but how you implement that idea is another thing. You see, and what we're not seeing coming from this administration, we're not even seeing good ideas, first of all. So we haven't gotten even to the stage of implementation, because you must first have a good idea before you can implement that idea. So a lot of what, again, that I'm seeing and all of this talk that is going on in Barbados can feed itself. The question is, does the government of Barbados want Barbados to feed itself? Or is the government locked on to somebody else's agenda that does not allow them to make funding available to, listen, I had a meeting, one of my members, he works, with land in St. Lucie, and they had a meeting with the Inter-American Development Bank, and they were coming over. So I said, listen, you guys want to, you can use World Harvest, you can use our facility to have the meeting. So of course I was there for the meeting, and when I had my suit on, so when the lady from the bank came in and she saw me, she said, she looked at me and she got startled. She said, the minister sent you? I said, no, ma'am. I'm the minister here at World Harvest. You know, she just the minister sent you, and I sat next to him. I said, listen, this lady is not talking anything that is going to sustain you guys. You know, it's talking about we got to go back and we have to try to siphon off a little bit here and siphon off a little bit there. I told her, listen, the moment you heard her talk about siphoning off this little bit, I said, y'all ain't getting nothing. And that was a meeting with the farmers in St. Lucie, not even St. Peter, farmers in St. Lucie. So I'm telling you that there's no real clear cut. There's no real design of this administration as far as agriculture is concerned. So right now we're just getting a lot of talk and a lot of fluff. But the idea is, because I raise sheep, I raise pigs, I raise chickens, I raise rabbits. Listen,
me too.
You know, so
I raised chickens,
you know,
and I killed them too, and
okay.
and I didn't kill them the normal way. As a
Okay.
child, I gotta share this joke with you all. Sorry, but you know, as a child, I was raising chickens, and my mom and dad went out one Saturday and came back home and found all the chickens lying in the yard dead. And I just told them, I said, well, you know, the chickens look sick. So I gave them medicine. And they asked me,
Oh my God.
what medicine did you give them? I picked up the iodine bottle, it was empty. So that was the end of chickens. Anyhow, that just passed.
I must say I have actually killed chickens too, so don't worry, I've done it in my lifetime.
You know, the
Not like
loyal
that. I mean,
opposition,
kill them to cook, not poison them. Yeah,
you know, the loyal opposition, they're gonna let me live
Not to
down. But listen, you know, when I listen to you all your conversation, you said something just now, I think, Apostle, that was very important. Who's driving our agenda?
Yes, sir.
Who is driving our agenda? Because if you look at the global movement, just this week, the United States, is it the FDA? No, the United States, whatever the department is, approved for retail beef made in the lab from animal tissue just this week. Okay,
they can
there's
keep that.
there's an agenda being driven, and we are talking about food security when the people in the global agenda are trying to take control of two major things, and one of them is water. And I'm looking here at what's a part of our discussion in terms of the high cost of living, electricity costs. And we're talking about putting down a data center that consumes massive amounts of electricity and massive amounts of water. And I challenge anybody to object to that. Go do your research. We're
You're
talking about
correct.
water rates. We're talking about fuel prices. We're talking about housing. This is why I am saying Barbados is more expensive. Barbadians cannot afford to rent a house or an apartment now because Barbadians are placing their properties now into Airbnb because, and I believe at the root of it is the cost of living in the country. The people just simply cannot sustain their lives by regular rent, and they know that I can make $150 a night. You calculate it. $150 a night, and I'll get that property occupied just for half the month. And I will make more money than I can rent that property for a month from a local.
Right.
And it means I can now afford to go into the supermarket and buy food and all the different types of things. And I'm just looking down through, you know, business operating costs. When you look at the operating costs for a business,
Right.
in Barbados, again, Maxine, you can correct me because I think you are more knowledgeable in this area than I am. Definitely, wages are a significant component of any business. Wage costs.
You know, and that's correct. In fact, it is.
Is it
Critical.
somewhere around 68%? Is that, am I right?
It depends on the nature of the business.
nature of the business,
because
okay.
it can vary, but it would it would be significant. And if you have an operation as labor intensive, then you're gonna find that you have significant cost to bear. Before we go any further, Lemuel, tell us, refer anybody, where can I get some increased piece, Apostle? Because you sound like you still know some, because
He knows some sources we don't.
no, and it's interesting because as I read that, my brain took me back to the actual taste. I don't know if you understand, gentlemen, what I'm saying, but
Oh yes, I do.
I mean, I could actually taste increased peas. I haven't seen any.
But I used to eat. Is that the green? That's the green ones.
It used to be a brown. No, they would have been a brownish kind of a palish brown.
Because those green peas, I used to pick them and open.
No, not green. That increase is a different pea.
Yeah,
It's a different pea from the thing. But you know that this whole thing. I mean, we can do a lot better. I mean, I don't know, Apostle, if there's another point you wanted to make in relation to what you were saying, because I there's something that I wanted to share when you mentioned housing, because there's one other video that I had, one other clip that I'd asked Dave and that I thought I wanted to share with y'all.
He has it?
He should have it. Is about a project which I heard today for the first. I saw this new project is a joint venture housing some vineyard meadows.
Yeah, Apostle, let's hear that video because we can. Yeah,
is it or just maybe just to scroll down and see the try to remember. Oh yes, if there's a video to it, or they may just have the story. Barbados today. They don't. Okay. And then there's a little bit of information at the bottom of this thing. It talks about 1,100 houses and a 300 million. It says here, Prime Minister Motley breaks ground Vineyard Meadows, a joint venture between the National Housing Corporation and Vineyard Development Inc. Vineyard St. Philip on Friday. But it's kind of blurred in the white there. But it talks about a $300 million investment. Now, I looked at that and I worked out that if it is $300 million and the 1,100 houses, it works out to approximately a cost of $273,000 per house. I have not seen any details. Mike, there are two things I raised about this within the context of cost of living and availability of property for rent, because my concern is what will be the price points for those houses? What are they actually offering? One. Two, what type of construction? Because I believe we have had, the three of us, probably if I remember correctly, have had some discussion about options in terms of building houses. Are we going to see, are they using what seems to be the predominant thing now, precast concrete? What are they going to be constructed? What are the construction methods? Is there work for smaller business or people in construction? And I'm asking these things because I have a concern that if we're talking about solving the housing challenges, and I would dare say use the word crisis, are we addressing, or there it says estimated 300 million, and this is 1,100 homes. So as I said, when you do the division, we are talking about a cost at $273,000. So what are they going to sell it at, and who's doing it? Because I fear that when we look at economic activity in Barbados, a couple things are happening. Business seems to be concentrated in the hands of a few people.
Okay.
when it comes to
Good point.
things like this. And I asked the question, does a joint venture have to be with a handful of traditional people who have traditionally been in business? Or is there scope? Because you see, on the one hand, we have a situation where the average Barbadian is not earning any interest on his or her savings. And for some people, if you go and check your account, you'll see that the interest you earn is probably less than the fees that they charge you in any given period. But the point is, can we create opportunities like this for the average person to invest in? So in other words, could that 300 million project been financed by members of the credit union movement in Barbados, for example, taxpayers who are sitting on what we call a lot of liquidity in the financial system, financial services system, whether it's banks or credit unions, because at the end of the day, the key point is that we need to share some of this so that the average Barbadian can see some of the benefits.
Some of the benefits. But Maxine,
Yes.
I watched a video this week. I'm sorry I don't have it to send to Dave. I wish I could. It was by a North American Muslim, Farrakhan kind of a Muslim. And he was talking about Black people. And he was making the point that Black people earn income, but they don't create wealth. And I found it a very interesting statement. We go to work and we work, we make an income, we pay our bills, and we don't do anything to create wealth. We don't know how to pool our resources together to do these kind of things that you're talking about. There always seems to be conflict, and I believe it stems from a DNA from way back. And I don't have the time to establish that.
I would not want to generalize. Let me respond to that if I could, gentlemen.
Yeah,
because
sure.
This
sure.
is something about which I am very passionate. Now, one of the good examples of pooling in Barbados right now is the credit union movement. I joined, and I call the credit union. City of Bridgetown was formed on the 20th of October, 1983. And I remember I'm the 122nd member of that organization.
Wow.
And the last time I checked, they probably had close to 100,000 members. And that is an example of pooling. Now,
Yes.
You see, because part of it is that and I will use myself as an example. When I was in my late 20s, 30s, and talking about, getting into business or whatever, my mother in particular was like, why you want to do that? You have a good job. That's what, because I was teaching at university. And people couldn't understand why I would want to leave there to work for myself. I said, but I taught entrepreneurship, and but the thing is that as a people, we were perhaps socialized into thinking that we didn't have, and business is risky or whatever. So I'm saying that there are examples where we pool and where we can spread our risk. Because if you grew up with nothing or very little, and you have accumulated something, unless you spend time understanding the very point you made about saving versus wealth creation.
Correct.
You may have this thing where you want to get back to where you were, you didn't have, and you have more than you had before. And therefore you should be happy but of course, forgetting that most people who earn a salary are 2 to 3 or maybe a maximum 6 months away from poverty. Because if you don't have a job,
if that much,
so you might be literally paycheck to paycheck as well.
Right.
So my thinking, and I've been preaching this since I was in, as I said, I joined the credit union. My credit union started, that first one that I, because I belong to University Credit Union as well. But City of Bridgetown started in 1983, and
But My question to you, I hear what you're saying about pooling, and I agree with you.
And
But how is that pooling translating
now this
into
is
wealth development?
Now, this is where, as I start, this is the point I was making. One of
Right.
the things, the point I've been making to the people in the movement for decades, because we're talking 83, 93, 2003, 2013, 2040 something years now, is that we have to move I call it different levels. In other words, we were able to bring people together to get them to people who didn't have bank accounts to save. They were able to use that money to move away from buying consumer things, to acquiring houses and starting businesses, etc. We now have to be able to leverage those resources, right? And I know Rose Corbin's comment about the land that is being used, that was a good agricultural land. But we now have to get people to leverage those resources. I'll use the example of $300 million, right? Because I like to do this. $300 million divided by 1,000 is, if you had 300,000 people pooling $1,000 each, that's $300 million if my arithmetic is correct.
Okay.
300,000, add on 3 knots, so you got 300 and then 6, 300,000. So the point I'm making is, if the government said, look, I don't mind, we can have this PPP, but we will design a PPP which says, I will say to this businessman, create a special purpose vehicle, or we will do it, where if you want to, let's go 50-50 then. And we say to Barbadians, you can invest in this, and because you don't have a lot, we're not going to ask you to risk a lot of money up front for those. So you start with units of $1,000.
Right.
So somebody like who may have significant savings may say, well, I want to invest 10,000. A person who is now starting up may invest, So in essence, like a unit trust kind of arrangement. But I will hear, and this is where I see the contradictions in all the talk that you hear, and then the actions that follow. You hear the Prime Minister talking about leveraging or using the liquidity, but she would talk about selling the transport board to people, knowing that the transport board is a subsidized public good.
Okay.
Public transport is a subsidized good, and you ain't gonna make no money from it unless you're operating your own little ZR or whatever, a single unit or a couple of them. But public transport, as it is subsidized now, will continue to be subsidized. What you hope for is that you have greatest efficiency possible to reduce the subsidies, but it would be subsidized otherwise. If you had to charge the full market rate, people would have to go back to the employers and say, pay me more money. My bus fare is a lot of money. So my point is that I hear you grandstanding, and I don't apologize for using the word, CARICOM hates about the cost of living. I hear you talk about reparations. It was a good form of reparation domestically, translating the word that persons like Sir Hilary Beckles, as he used to be Dr. Beckles and later Professor Beckles, when we had the mutual affairs, something I was very much involved in.
Right. Wow.
And I remember when the mutual was looking to demutualize. I had just come back I had spent some time in Louisiana. I had just come back, and I remember being at Black Rock Cultural Center talking about these things. And later on, so Hilary became a director of not Goddess, what Lord forgive me for that. Goddess, I was a director of Goddess. He became a director of Mutual, Sagicor. And he still is, as far as I know, a director. What have they done about looking to enfranchise, as we talk about? Again, a lot of talk, but we have not seized the opportunity.
Yeah.
And
I read this book. I read this book, Madam McLean, the book you wrote on corporate power in Barbados and mutual affair. I read that book. Very interesting.
And that basically that. But in other words, every year you hear, okay, we have excess liquidity in the banking system. Now we have credit unions, with a membership which approximates the workforce of Barbados. That's the best way that I would look at it. It approximates. They will give you numbers like 300,000 members or what, but people belong to more than one. So you would have to reduce it. So I would say we probably have 100 and something thousand people in the movement who are, who may be in 2 or 3, whatever. Some people may be in multiple. So if you don't want to double count or triple count. But these are people who cannot risk or cannot afford to risk all their savings. But because if you're saying to them, so in other words, I can't go and ask a young man who has $10,000 saved, his lifetime savings, to go and put that in a venture. But I can say to a young man or a young woman, instead of spending $3,000 this crop over season, spend $1,000 and invest $2,000. You understand? So you get to party, you get to do all the things you want, but you have put $2,000 into a project which is going to sell houses where the same credit union can give you the mortgage to go and get a house. And this is why I asked the question about who is going to construct and what method. Now, if John Brown, who is an electrician, and somebody else who is a mason or whatever, or a tailor, gets to work on 100 of those 1,100 houses, right? That person then is in a position, to look to earn and then set aside some money to start talking about investment. But what we have is a situation where what has evolved in Barbados is that construction of houses seems to have fallen into one model for the most part, one type of house, precast concrete for the most part, done by limited number of companies or a company. I don't know how many there are. And for the most part, small businesses in construction are shut out. There was a cooperative or something of entity start of people in construction. I've heard representatives on the radio talking about it, and they will tell you that they're not getting business. You go down on the West Coast, and you see construction taking place. It's either largely, and even where they're subcontracting, a lot of those subcontractors may be non-national companies that coming in from outside the region or whatever. Some of it may be specialized work, I understand, and I have no difficulty with that. But we refuse to sit down as a country and say, how do we empower people to provide goods and services to themselves so that we can retain and we can start to grow wealth? If I can't invest in something, and I mean, we don't have the time, but one day remind me, I can tell you about when I was president of the city of Bridgetown. And the credit union had some land. It's still sitting there opposite Port St. Charles. It was, and I can tell you, in fact, if you have the time, I can share it now. 20-something acres of land bought by the city of Bridgetown. At the time, my youngest brother was a general manager. And I will tell out the business now. He saw that land going to visit a girlfriend in St. Lucie. And we bought that land intending to build houses for members. But it so happened that Fort St. Charles was supposed to be constructed. And without going into all the details, we were approached about buying it. It so happened that when they came, I had just become the president of COB, the first female president of COB, incidentally. And I received a call, and my response was, if you want to discuss COB business, you come to me at COB and you sit with me on my board.
Right. Okay.
And there's a whole story. That's one of the things, Pastor, that I'm going to write about, because the history of COB, because that was one of those things.
Very good. Very good.
And we recognize at the time that, and it was probably factored into their project, but the details of that were that they came with what I would describe, because I have to paraphrase, as an unattractive offer. And my response
Yes.
as president was, we did not put this land on the market. We were told, oh, but we know how much you paid. And I say, what we paid for is immaterial.
It's irrelevant.
It is about the market value.
Exactly.
And I will say this, when we talked, there was an offer to exchange land somewhere else for it and so on. And all the offers, I said, but why don't you put it into your project as equity? Oh, we don't want the credit union to risk the money. I said, but it is not risky based on who doing this project, because based on what I'm seeing and the nature of the project, it ain't gonna fail.
Okay.
But you know what? They didn't get the land because they decided not to do what they wanted to do. And somebody bought the land because they came. In fact, somebody offered to buy the land, and there's a story about that. But that person came, and if you remember, there were some special incentives given by then Prime Minister Arthur for certain developments. And I think that a prospective buyer came to the credit union, having applied for the special incentives, and they paid down 10%. But then they went back to the Prime Minister, and fortunately he said, well, no, what you want to do now is not what you applied to do in the first instance. So in other words, haven't gotten the incentives they wanted to shift.
Right.
And he said, what you want to do does not qualify. And so they came back and they said, well, we cannot afford to do the project anymore. But of course, you had to forfeit that 10%. And then somebody else came, and you remember in the 2005, 6, 7, around that time, there was a boom in land prices.
Yes.
And somebody bought it, but and my understanding, and so this is, let me offer that as a caveat. My understanding was, and I heard from somebody that they had put it on the market immediately and haven't bought it because it was a good deal for the credit union. But in the context of what people were trying to do in terms of land speculation, they offered it for some ridiculous price. But in the meantime, that international overheating of land prices collapsed and they couldn't get it sold. But we did it. We got a good price, and that money would have benefited the members and so on. Because if we had continued with the housing development, people, the persons, it would have, the values of the houses would have been escalated, their land taxes and so on, or people that would have taken the land and sold it, But there's so I've shared that to say that there are opportunities which, if allowed to happen, and if government sees the members of the credit union movement, which is, as I said, almost the entire working force in Barbados, and sees them as people to be respected and treated seriously, you ain't gonna offer them the transport board. That is a public good that will not make money. You will say to them, y'all live in houses. Let us have, and I will share my thoughts very clearly now. Let us have a design competition for houses that are attractive, durable, at a good price point, and let us design these houses in ways that will provide a wide cross section of artisans and other people in construction an opportunity to earn, because these are houses that these same people will buy and live in. But no, we're going to produce a house now where the price point will probably be difficult for people to secure a mortgage, or they can't service the mortgage.
Okay.
So I this is something I feel very strongly about, because I tell people I'm tired of the talk and the people who refuse to walk the talk.
Right.
I get off my soapbox, gentlemen.
No,
Can't say get out the pulpit.
But you're absolutely correct. You're not you're spot on, Maxine.
Yeah.
You're spot on, because you see, that's the thing. I look around Barbados, and I see a handful of people prospering off of a mass of people. I see, even when I consider, and the question, one of the key questions here, actually there were two. One had to do, just trying to look back very quickly, so give me one moment. One had to do with governments prioritizing. And the other question had to do with, and maybe we can engage this with the loyal opposition if they can put it in the chat. What can we do, Apostle? What can we do, Maxine, to help to reduce the cost of living for ordinary Barbadians? What practically can we do? Now, I know that some merchants have been, as I said at the beginning of the show, I picked up a carton of orange juice today out of my fridge, and I had bought it at Massy, $4.99 for a carton of orange juice, $4.99. And out of curiosity, I decided to look on the carton to see where it was made. And it was produced in Cyprus. I'm sure you all know where Cyprus is.
Mm-hmm.
That's miles away from this place.
Somewhere far.
far away. It almost got me thinking, like, what was the movie now? Neverland. Anyhow, far away land. You know, and I look at our orange juice from a particular company in the country. I'll try to avoid calling names to Apostle.
Mm-hmm.
Up in $7 or something like that for the same carton of milk. Sorry, carton of juice. Maybe even more now. I don't know what it is. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I can see, and I don't necessarily want to give them kudos or anything, but I can see some degree of attempt being made to offer a range of prices on the supermarket shelves. When I go into the supermarket, I can see juice at $4.99. I can see juice at $9.98. I can see carrots at $4.56. I can see carrots at $14. So the range is there. How are they going about doing it? I don't know. But I do know that one of the most important components in the terms of the cost is VAT. And I challenge anyone to change that. Maxine, you laid out some interesting figures earlier. I don't know if you remember them when we were talking about
$100
the $100.
Yeah.
And how that changes. And I can tell you, I went into the supermarket last week. Today's what? Friday? This week. And I went to pick up an item that last week, I'm trying to remember what it was, to be honest, but I remember the price the week before was like $4 something. And this week it was nearly $7. Now, that is not the kind of increase I expected. I would expect if it was close to $4, you maybe get up to like maybe $5.15, but not as much as $7 or $8. I didn't anticipate that. Okay, and of course, I believe the merchants would tell you, well, the Strait of Hormuz is what resulted, because the government is going to say that the oil prices went up, but oil prices have been dropping dramatically. And I am just trying to figure out, what can I say, or what can we do as it relates to no problem, Dave. As it relates, you have the song, Dave. If you have a song, make sure you leave it for me to run. I got to help him close off the show tonight.
I saw the message.
Yeah. What can we do? What steps can we take to reduce the cost of living for ordinary Barbadians? Apostle, I can give you the first shot at it because we're coming to the final 15 minutes.
Okay.
Just take a couple of minutes from your perspective, if you and if the government takes our ideas and uses them, at least I hope they will give us credit.
Okay, no doubt about that.
Okay.
Let me just jump right in and say this. One of the first things that we have to make sure that's happening here in Barbados is that anything that is produced locally in Barbados cannot be sold above the cost of something that is imported. So you should never have a product that is produced locally in Barbados sold higher than a product that is imported. Okay, I've traveled extensively, and I'm shocked many times when I see local products in other countries of the world that are made in Barbados are on the shelf. They're cheaper than they are in Barbados, and that is a point that would upset anybody realizing what's happening. The other issue that we have to deal with is we have to monitor this high-end luxury level that we have in Barbados. This is one of the areas that's killing our people, because once you have those high-end luxury level persons who eat at a certain level, they're at the Grey Poupon level, and then you have supermarkets who are now going to diversify because they don't want those persons, because now the high-end level in Barbados is pretty much right across the island. It's no longer just centered at, Sunset Crest and those areas. It's all across the island. You have the Royal Westmoreland, you got the Viewmont, you got the Port St. Charles, you got the Paintree Project now. So you have all of these high-end levels that are here in Barbados. And as long as those folk are here, they're going to demand that when I walk into a supermarket, they have the items that allows me to eat at the level and to live at the level that I'm living. So when you have a case, like I asked a lady years ago, I asked them, why did you guys move out of, this was Kay Shepherd. I spoke to the lady and I asked one of the directors, I said, why did you guys move out of St. Peter? Why did you guys move out of Spikestown? And, she told me they were rebranding because they recognized a different market and a newer market that was now coming in to Barbados. So now we're catering for a certain market, just like we have Lime Grove that caters for a certain market. I've been there, spoke to individuals where you can call at any time, and you'll have individuals that will come out and you'll call the police, you'll call one of the security firms, get a truck, and they'll come, they'll get the pieces, they'll come to your house. So it's a different level. And Barbadians, the average Barbadian cannot compete at that level. So in the supermarket, you're seeing where there is a push to make sure that we don't lose those individuals who are going to come and buy an item, for, $70, $75 that the average Barbadian is going to buy, at the lowest level. You're going to buy to suit where you are. So you're not dealing with corned beef and biscuit people any longer. So it's forcing our, supermarkets, it's forcing our stores to be competitive enough to not lose sales. And Barbadians are finding themselves outmatched when they go into the stores and when they go into the supermarkets, because a message is being clearly sent. Even in the area of housing, a lot of the projects where the properties being sold are $500,000, 750,000, 1.5 million, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. So that's where the reality is right now. So Barbadians on the normal level cannot compete there. So there is a need to address this. Now, I'll say this because this is also a part of my construct on this. Is the government using the high cost of living as a weapon of mass control? Okay, because we have that, and if you look at the Bible, we have that with Pharaoh. Pharaoh said, you look at the children of Israel, they're more and they're mightier than we are, so let's deal wisely with them. Lest when our enemies come against us, they collaborate with our enemies and get themselves out of the land. The second aspect of it is in Nehemiah chapter 5. And in Nehemiah chapter 5, this is where the people complained to Nehemiah. They said that, our daughters and our sons, they have been sold into slavery already. We're paying many taxes. They said we've mortgaged our lands, we've mortgaged our vineyards, we've mortgaged our houses just to buy grain because of the scarcity and to also pay the Persian king's heavy tax. So is there a place where the high cost of living is being used by this administration who may be following somebody else's agenda, not their own agenda, but because of what they've signed on to, they have to push and move their country in this direction. So is the high cost of living being used as a weapon of mass destruction? How do we allow the Light and Power to have a massive solar farm there in Bourbon and St. Lucie, free sunlight? They're not taxed on it. They're not charged by the government from it. It's our sunlight. But yet, constantly, they're allowed to increase the electricity bills here in the country. So is there an agenda to keep people under control, make sure that we have an election, we still have people that are going to vote? We're not going to allow them to reach that level of success and prosperity where they can charter their own course and they don't necessarily need to worry too much about the government. But again, these are some of the things that we need. Matter of fact, we can't even worry about the Fair Trading Commission because they themselves aren't fair to their own selves, far less the people. But the reality is that one of the things, and I said this, years ago, I said Barbados is moving towards that high-end destination. It's moving too quickly, okay? And now it's pretty much gotten out of control that to survive in Barbados, you're either very heavy low-end or you're very, very high-end. And Barbadians, unfortunately, cannot compete. They cannot compete financially when they go into the supermarket. So this is some things that this government has to pay attention to. They have to go around, they have to get people dealing with these matters and making sure that it is fair for the average Barbadian out there. That is what is necessary. The fairness, okay? The fairness for the average Barbadian out there is just not in Barbados. And until we get that sorted out, until we have our government adjusting these things and looking at these things and making sure that, when we go out there to buy things like here in Spikestown, let me just say this quickly, in Spikestown, we have so many new bars and new restaurants and different things, and they're not localized. They're not localized anything. We go across from Archer's Hall, high-end furniture, $3,000, $6,000 plus, $12,000. The average person in St. Peter has never been in there, not even to look around, because they already know prices outside of my control. All right. We're looking at this, and I'm just saying, Rev, that we have to deal with this high-end level in Barbados. We have to make sure that it matters the most for our people, that the adjustments and the fairness, those things are positioned for Barbadians to do better and live better in our country.
I'm just wondering, Maxine, I'm coming to you in 30 seconds. I'm just wondering if we shouldn't encourage more people to get into the market, especially when it comes to supermarkets and food supplies. Just an idea. Maxine? You're muted.
I was muted,
Okay,
so I was trying to. I'm going to look at the whole question from what I call the micro perspective, the individual household and the individual, because we've looked at a number of these things, and bearing in mind what Apostle said about the catering to the tourists and so on, and Barbadians have bought into they're developing the appetites for the things they see on the supermarket shelves, etc. And I've been looking, as I mentioned earlier, this whole question of rising obesity in the region. And my question is why? And I think a lot of it has to do with the consumption of a lot of processed foods, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, well, I'm not telling people to starve themselves, but I think we have to start relooking our diets, because we say healthy food is expensive, but healthy food is expensive if you want, a recent craze these days is smoothies and and these shakes and whatever, and people want to get strawberries and blueberries and whatever the case may be. But I think we need to look. I have been looking at the nutritional value of a lot of the things that we have eaten in the past, although sadly things like golden apple trees seem to have been affected by disease, and we have to do the research to bring these things back. But I think a critical thing, today I'll take an example. I've noticed that since we had that volcanic ash a couple of years ago, trees seem to be, some of our fruit trees seem to be really responding very positively. And it hurts my heart to see a lot of wastage of seasonal fruits. And so I think that part of what we need to look at as a people, as I say, to look at how we consume and perhaps simplify and incorporate a lot more of what we have seasonally and where we can preserve. And I don't mean necessary, because people talk about canning and so on. I hardly ever use canned foods. I must tell you that.
Right.
And so, for example, today I went to a friend's house. I have, anybody knows where I live, I have a mango tree that seems to have been very blessed recently. I've noticed if you look at mango trees around the island, these mango trees have, since that ash, you know, mangoes tend to grow like individually and so on. They're growing in clusters. And I went over to a friend's house because this is a gentleman who goes to the beach with me, and he's been saying, come to my house and get these mangoes. And although I have a tree, I went and I got some to give them away, because you know what would happen if he cannot handle all of those, they will stay and probably rot.
Right.
You know. And so the point I'm making is that we can look to see where, taken into, and repeating myself, the seasonality, that we freeze some of these things. We look at what we consume, because a lot of times we are included. We're just eating too much of the wrong thing, and it so happens that a lot of it is convenient, but when you check the value for money, you know, we can probably become more simple in how we consume. Look at what our parents and grandparents served us, partly because they couldn't afford certain things, but then you realize that it was more nutritious. You know, I think, and in order for that to work as well, this is where government now has to facilitate, especially when we're talking food, agriculture, you know, activity and so on, so that we can get more of these things. I recently was looking at, I happened to stay at I went to a conference that was held in Barbados, and I stayed at the hotel. And as I went to breakfast every morning, did I see a slice of mango? I mean, mangoes are plentiful now. They may tell you that we don't, a chef is not going to sit in the kitchen and peel it. But my counter to that is that if you go into most of the supermarkets in the UK and you check the label of sliced mangoes, I know of a Ghanaian businessman who supplies freshly sliced mangoes to supermarkets in the UK. And because I saw a documentary on this, and during the season, there are two seasons, as you know, given the size of Africa. West Africa has seasons similar to ours, so this is summer in West Africa, but we're looking to get into the winter below the Sahara. I mean, you know, below the equator in South Africa and so on. December is their warmer months, so that when the season is out up north, they get them from down south. And if you can ship a sliced fruit from airports in Africa to London. Why we can't sell them in Barbados,
In Barbados.
in Barbados restaurants?
Yeah.
Coconut water you don't see on the menu. I mean, somebody was talking about that. And so I am saying that there are ways that we and I'm not talking about the commercial at the and I've noticed what I said. I repeat myself at the household. I call it the micro level, if you want to use the term the economists use at the household level. We need to look at how we do some of these. So, Pastor, I can make sure I get you some mangoes so you can make some.
No. Hold on. I can come. I can close off. Listen, it's easy for you to talk about mangoes. You know, I got 3 mango trees in my yard, but I have to go outside in the night and sit down with a shotgun and a spotlight.
For the monkeys, oh dear.
Between the monkeys, the bats, and the birds.
I had that earlier this year, but so far I'm lucky now.
We fight for. I mean, I now have to depend on the high winds to harvest my mangoes, because fortunately, if it's ripe enough and the wind gets to it before the monkey, it'll get to the ground. And you know, the monkeys don't seem to want to eat anything on the ground. They take a bite out of them, and then the birds
falls. That's it. They get another one.
I wanted to let you know that. So I will not refuse any mangoes coming from you, because that may well be the only mangoes I get. Okay?
But I will get you some from my tree and some from my beach.
And I will welcome them. Okay, I just want you to know that. And
so I will arrange to get them to you tomorrow.
No problem. And the other thing I
don't know if Apostle has, or if I can do the same for you.
Leave him to bring the other things he was talking about. Okay, I'm not going to let him loose here at all now, because then we will be here till 11 o'clock. But listen,
I have 2 trees. I have one, what they call the Powie. And then I have the other tree that grows the big ones like this. So
I got the big ones too. I got the big ones. I got the Powies, and I got the Julie.
Oh,
the Julie, sweet. I got Julie, not just Julia. I got Julie too.
Yeah, Julie.
Okay. But listen, Maxine, you said something, and I made a note here. Maybe what we need to do as Barbadians is to look at starting to develop our own kitchen gardens. My wife is beginning to do that, where we'll grow our own produce. You know,
we can do it as communities as well. You know,
so that's a possibility. I made another comment here. It seems like Carmita Fraser was correct.
Food comes first.
Okay, I'm not going to say any more. I can leave the younger ones who may not know about Carmita to go and research.
I think she was right.
Yeah, I think she was right.
Yeah,
and
she
then
came to our school. She came to our school when I was a boy, All Saints, and that's where we started. That's where we started the kitchen garden at our school.
And my last comment has to do with the myriads of different produce. I lived in Trinidad for 3 years, and I was stunned at the number of different local let me say processed, because they were bottled. You know, the peppered mango and the sweet mango and all these different things that were on the supermarket shelf. I mean, 10, 20 different labels, different people. Yeah, the chutneys and everything, you know.
Yes, sir.
I understand that the majority of the Trinidad economy is comprised of the entrepreneurs. And I began to understand when I walked in the supermarket, 8 and 9 and 10 different pepper sauces and these kinds of things. If they can do it, we can do it too. You know, I really believe that. But folk, listen, it's 10:03.
Okay.
We have had we have had some kind of a show tonight. And I mean the amount of information. I'm going to have to go and sit down after we finish and listen back. Especially when you came on, Maxine, and then you came on, Apostle, and make some notes, because there's a lot that was said that is critically important. And loyal opposition, I hope that you all were taking your notes as well. Forgive me if we didn't get into taking more of your comments, but you know, when you have the flow of things going, sometimes it's very difficult to get in there and engage a lot of the comments. But there were a lot of very good comments made on the chat. And I really want to express our appreciation for every single one of you. I've been seeing them. I know Maxine has been seeing them. I'm sure Apostle has been seeing them as well.
Yes,
And I'm pretty sure that in the programs to come, many of your comments will be incorporated in the sense of how things are presented on the show. But I want to thank all of you, and I'm speaking here primarily to the loyal opposition. Thank you all for your input, because we've been seeing them, in terms of your comments. Look at this one, the monkeys in love, though. Yeah, they're in love with my mangoes. That's what they're in love with, But we have a lot that can be done. Here's Lemuel talking about Barbados cherries, guavas, golden apples, shaddocks, papaw, all local and very healthy, and that's a fact. And maybe in one of these shows we can spend a little more time taking some more of their comments, because we have a lot of very informed and intelligent, loyal opposition people as well.
Yes,
very
sir.
many of them, and we respect your inputs, and we thank you for your input tonight. We really appreciate every single thing. I've just been looking. Somebody said your Julie tree looks good, but my Julia looks even better. But I'll just leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at that, But look,
That will be.
I got to come off this show and go to Julie or not to Julie. So I got to behave myself. Maxine, thank you so much.
Thank you
Wow.
very much. It's a pleasure talking to you,
Thank
to be
you.
on show with you two gentlemen, as usual.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good to be with you.
Wow, Apostle, the information, I tell you, I'm going to try my best one of these shows, if Marcia will allow me, to just shut up and let you all talk.
There's a discussion. You can't do that.
Yeah.
I know, but sometimes I feel sometimes, boy, look, stay in your lane here. These people. But no, really,
Yes, sir.
every time I'm on the show with you guys, even with Carolyn as well, I've missed her for a couple of Fridays. There is such it really is Emma. It really is Emma. Educate, motivate, mobilize, and agitate. Where the educate is undoubtedly present in the show. So I want to thank both of you for
Welcome.
tremendous contribution tonight. And now let me see if I can get this thing. I don't understand. Dave think I can do things. I don't
I'm
know
sure
where
you
he
can.
get that idea, but if I push the button, let me see. And anything wrong happens that you all don't recognize.
Now the preacher tell me, teacher tell me, everybody used to tell me that anytime you want a song, impress it. And my mother tell me, father tell me, even my grandmother tell me, you got to learn to be expressive. Anytime you want to show your potential, proper English and nation language is essential. Check out to the land, and you could search all over. Nobody could talk like me, yeah. And when you come and ask she about crime in this country, she say we need stronger communities. And when you come and ask she about carry community, she say you're going Guyana with just her ID. Scam not get vexed, scam not start a ball. Them kidnap a man, they couldn't do that to Winston Hall. Just like Ninja Man, me say they had to have a warrant in hand, so it was no kidnapping at all. Man, you gotta talk like me, yeah? Speak like me, yeah? Show the world you coulda do it like she. Talk like me, yeah? Speak like me, yeah? Show the world you coulda do it like she. Man, you gotta show them how you could run a country. I heard Tom Adams, Reese and John, Bradford Pitt and David Thompson talking politics back in the day. I remember Billy, remember Sleepy, Eric Seeley and Don Blackman calling big words got people amazed. I remember Tudor with his Oxford accent, Dean Harry Pitchlow on the radio so eloquent. But that was the past, but now today and future, the queen of speeches is now here. And when you come and ask she about prices, about her killing me, she say she got to give me compensation. And when you come and tell she we need sporting facilities, she say we soon gonna get a new stadium. And they say she is the savior of Barbados, made us perform miracles just like Jesus. Cause she got the head and she got the ability, cause she raised from the dead. Chris and Lashley, talk like me, speak like me, show the world you coulda do it like she. Talk like me, speak like me, I don't feel that she and can let us agree, but me I can show them how you could run a country. People bawling, people crawling, complaining that me are borrowing millions from agencies right and left. People grumbling, some mumbling, some even finger pointing. Look, she gone back to the IMF. And they complaining again, again and again. How every minute, look at me up in a plane, back to fly to UN and put down a speech on world stage. And had Netanyahu and Trump in a rage. And when them come and ask she about the state of the economy, she say billions in oil found offshore. And when them come and ask she about the opposition party, she say no more rats crossing the floor. And the gangster they had it when it's Lucy. And me a pull another miracle in this country, cause she went by corner a wrong election time, and she turned brown water into wine. Man, you gotta talk like me, speak like me, show the world you couldn't do it like she. Talk like me, speak like me, a man who was a die-hard DLP. Tell me he in love with she from the age of 30.
Praise. Well, thank God. We've come to the end of the show tonight. So God bless all of you. Again, we thank Maxine and Apostle for being here with us, and all of you in the loyal opposition. We want to wish you a great, great remainder of the night and have a tremendous weekend. Until next time we're on the show, God bless, and we'll see you soon again. Bye-bye.